right, we will open this meeting of January 13th, 2016. Let the record show we have two selectmen that are coming, but they will be a little bit later. First on our list is the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to bring the minutes of Thursday, December 17th to the floor for discussion.
Second, all those in favor?
Yes.
Right on the first page, not that this is incorrect under Senator Forrester, the rainy day fund. I understand what that is. Everybody at this table understands what that is. And I just wonder if everybody that reads it down the line is going to understand about the how the 170 or 70 to 140 helps bond writing for stability of the state.
BTW out as well.
So, I don't know.
I'd expand on it.
Kind of flesh it out a little bit.
Page 2, near the bottom, Selectman Dawson commented embracing mental health would be a solution. As it's written, that's really out of context of the paragraph. It doesn't make any sense why it's hanging down there. So without more language that took place to tie it in, either add more language or just take it out.
Take what out, Catherine?
Selectman Dawson commented embracing mental health would be a solution.
A solution to what? I don't know.
Right.
Well, I mean, there was a whole conversation
Well, I
that took
understand that.
place.
You
so-
understand it, I understand it, and...
So like I said, we either add more language or just take it out.
But up above town administrator report, a couple of lines, the last line of that big paragraph, Selectman Dawson commented embracing mental health would be a solution. Yep. Well, it wouldn't be one solution because,
Well, it made sense in that conversation.
right,
It did.
It doesn't make sense
She-
hanging there like this without
She
more.
also expanded to that, she had sat on a number of different, I don't even know if we need to put this in necessarily, but that she had sat on a number of different things, and all of the police
Hey,
agencies
Scott.
were against the legalization of marijuana.
right.
And I would love to see something about the senator saying that that's what the police agency's stance is. Because she said it, and I understand it, I get it. I don't agree with it, but
On
I get
page
it.
4, these are not really encumbrances.
Yes, thank you for that. Expenditures.
Yeah, they were, that we spent the money, they ordered it. The bill may not come in, but they spent it. And the one where we voted no to bind the selectmen's minutes, they'd already been sent out, they were already bound.
And I think I asked him about that, and he said that he didn't know that at the time.
No, he didn't.
Forward.
No, he didn't. None of us did. So it just,
And also, Selectman Scanlon had commented under the PD flooring for discussion. He questioned, we hadn't voted on the flooring. I researched that. We did make that motion at the next meeting on the 28th. But I also thought if we could change the PD flooring discussion to PD renovations discussion instead of just flooring.
Right, because it was renovation.
Right, but
We did.
this particular motion is only referencing the cabinets and dishwasher, not flooring.
Oh, good catch. On page 5, under Director of Public Works.
Wait a minute, we can't go back to, we cannot add that in there because it was not to exceed $1,800. It was very specific to cabinet and dishwashers
Right.
on that, so we can't add, you can't,
No, see up top where it's in italics, where it says PD flooring discussion? At the beginning of the paragraph, just change that to PD renovations.
okay, yep, that's good. I'm sorry, Kathleen, go ahead.
Interesting, though, the only thing that included that, well, yeah, but either way, it's fine.
Flooring, stairs in the lobby, and then the cabinets,
90% of the conversation was flowing, but that's okay.
yeah.
Either way, they'll read it, no. On page 5, under Director of Public Works report, sidewalks discussion, I don't believe we discussed entertaining a warrant article separate for repairing of sidewalks. We talked about a warrant article to include sidewalks in the road reserve, and then to increase the budget line. At least that's it. I think that's what we did.
The
Where are you on that one, Kevin?
discussion of entertaining a warrant article for the repair of sidewalks is changing the current language of the roads and bridges.
Right, but that's not what this says.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not. That
Director of
was the
Public Works.
conversation.
I got it.
Yeah, the first sentence.
Right. This was to change the title to roads, bridges, to include sidewalks. So it wasn't entertaining a warrant article for the repair of sidewalks.
It
No,
was
it's-
expanding the current,
It was expanding the current revolving fund.
and that way the money that we appropriated from sidewalks wouldn't get diverted to something else, which happens with amazing frequency over the
Although we
last 5
did
years.
say that we would put, there was some discussion on a separate warrant article for a specific sidewalk, and then
Winter Street.
and if that got passed, then that separate warrant article would be,
No.
Table.
What we would have is a warrant article to change the language, to change, I don't know if it can be 2 warrant articles. Warrant article to add sidewalks to that, and then a warrant article to appropriate monies into, that. And then we would increase the line for sidewalks in the budget, and if that passed in the warrant article, we'd eliminate the monies from the budget.
from the budget. You're right, that's it.
Don't need to fund it twice.
Right, exactly. So that was it.
Will be a warrant article, add sidewalks to road reserve fund,
Mhm.
and increase the line item budget.
The road bridges revolving fund. You have to get that specific name.
No, I think Joyce has that finally, after much research.
Any others?
I'm good.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of December 17th, 2015 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's it, right, Gail?
Yes,
All right. Scott, you wanted to talk with us. Hoping that John was going to get here before you.
I should be here in a
In the
minute.
next couple minutes.
Well, I have something that pertains to the Water District. It was an FYI. We had Joe Tedeschi had contacted us.
He's already been taken care of?
Yes, and I just wanted to say that, there was a series of emails, and I think they started back in at least December, if not before that. I'm concerned about MetroCast and Ruston's Water, and I was sent an FYI from your department today. And I just want to say, I just thought it was absolutely wonderful, the service that the Water District provided him in educating him about his hot water heater and flushing it,
A
and
lot of people don't do that, Kathy.
I know, but I just thought,
Mature hot water heater failure,
yeah,
because they don't, on a regular basis, at least annually, shut off their hot water heater, drain it,
Yep.
and then refill it.
I think most people know that.
And the trouble is, the other thing is, it's energy.
Oh, yeah, if you don't do
That's
that
right.
stuff, it builds up inside.
Right.
And
it was just
high pressure.
marvelous
You have
at that
leak.
service. I just wanted to comment, I
Short
didn't know you were coming in, but
your water
while you're
heater.
here, I'll sit while you're here. It
No,
was, he,
That's what we're there for, I mean.
I know, but it's-
We go into a lot of homes, we try to educate them, such as.
I wonder how many
Big
people,
one is toilet leaking. People just don't realize how much water that'll consume. You know,
Or a tub, a shower.
Toilets are a big one though, Joe.
Yeah,
It just seems
they
that,
run and run.
you know, I don't know if they think their toilet's gonna work for 20 years without any maintenance on it at all, you know? if they-
It's not true.
I think if they push the lever and everything flushes, they say, hey, everything's fine. But they don't listen to hear if it's refilling again after it's filled. And, you know, we have a little disc at the water district, and I don't have one with me, I wish I did. But it shows a little pinhole in the disc. It shows 3 different sized pinholes in the disc. And I'll bring one in sometime so you have it. And in that, it tells you how much is that pinhole is letting water through, how much water we use in the course of a month.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So a lot of people just don't realize that. And we have them come in front of us, and they're looking for an abatement, of course. If they've done the research, they qualify for the abatement, they get the abatement.
I just thought it was a wonderful service you provided.
Thank you for that. We strive to work for the customers. Of course, the customers own the district, so.
Yep, well, that certainly showed. He was very, very happy.
Afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon.
So you're an upside down.
And I will, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
I thought I'd come in and just have a little discussion with the selectmen as the,
Do you want to come here and so she can get in on the recording and it's easier for
sorry about that.
minutes and...
Just come in and let you know where the commissioners of the water district, our position and what action we've been taking and stuff. Last spring, we started with, this is the GAA application. And we submitted it in December without Belmont's signature. The selectmen of Belmont, they would not sign it, where the town of Tilton had the lawsuit going against the planning board. When we went to them, they said they agreed with it, but until that lawsuit was settled, they were not comfortable in signing it. So when the DES decision came out, it stated in there that DES supported us having, upgrading to the GAA. So what the water commissioners voted on was to send a cover letter along with the application, explaining that we went, to Northfield, had them sign it. We went to Belmont Selectmen, they were unwilling to sign it at this time. They agreed with it, but were unwilling to sign it. And we explained, just as I just explained to you, in the letter format, sent it in. We have since had communications with them. They want us to go back to Belmont, the water district, and try again to get them to sign it. That's what DES has asked us. So next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we will go back in front of the Belmont Selectmen to see if we can. There was a decision that came out, it's funny how things work. We send it in, we get an email from DES, this Pierce Rigrod, asking us to go back in front of Belmont, and then, of course, it was in the paper that the case had been decided on. I, in turn, once I saw that, called Belmont to see if they would be willing to entertain again, which they said they would be. So we were able to get, that's their next meeting they have is on the 19th.
Nice.
So we're going to go back in front of them, trying to get them to sign again. Because of what's taken place on 140, the meetings we've had in the Water District, our stance was, we started a fund 2 or 3 years ago called the Exit 20 Tank Fund to try to start to put money away, looking at a tank at Exit 20 somewhere in the future. The improvements we made on the river crossing across from Cumberland Farms and down in front of Wyman Gordon is the amount of flows that we get on both sides of the river now greatly increased because of that improvement that we made there, to the point much greater than what the computer was showing us, the computer program as they run it. So our flows are much better at Exit 20. So the need for a tank out there, because we have a tank up on Reservoir Road, and of course what we were doing is we pump from 140, from our wells on 140, comes down 140, down Main Street in Tilton, and then it was crossing at the little 6-inch that was across from Cumberland Farms, and also a 10-inch that hangs on the bridge over here on the Texaco station. Okay, that's the way we get back across, and then it pumps up Bay Hill, back up to Reservoir, and fills the million-gallon reservoir. And then once the reservoir's full, it's a gravity system until the reservoir gets to a certain level, and then the pumps kick on, fill it back up again. And what was happening is, we had plenty of flow on the Northfield side because of the reservoir, where our restriction was coming across the river. So when we did the river project, Cumberland Farms project, greatly increased our fire flows. So our point that we're looking at now is we have 2 gravel-packed wells on 140 at our pump station. We have a site on that land for the 3rd well, for the future expansion of the water district or water company. We, as water commissioners, don't feel that we're going to go elsewhere to look for a 3rd or for a 2nd water source. So we'll put a 3rd, we'll have to start exploring our direction to find a different water source in the event that something should ever happen out there, that we're not stuck with not having a 2nd water source to supply the people in Tilton Northfield to the district. So what we've done is we've instructed our engineer, to go back and go through the old documents that Ken Money had when he first was exploring, instead of starting out hit the ground running with the information that he would have already done back in the 90s. He did a lot of test drilling and stuff, so what we've asked Renee is to go back, pull that documentation out, bring it to us, and we're going to have a meeting with him to go over it and then see what direction we would take. It'll take about 3 years in order to, from the time you start planning to the time you actually finish planning for just a new well, for the groundwater withdrawal. And it's not cheap.
I was just going to say, at what expense?
Just development of the well, Pat, better than $500,000. Probably as far as putting a pump station in, you're probably looking at another $500,000 plus. And then you got to purchase the land.
And that all falls on the users.
It's good. I mean, we really got no choice. If we're not proactive, we're going to be reactive to a situation.
Well, I hear you loud and clear on that one, but, there's somebody that's not hearing us loud and clear that that's our only water source. And they continue to print it in the paper that it hasn't done damage to the water source. Well, it's our only water source, so now we have to the users.
And not to interrupt, Pat, but when we had our meeting with our engineer, when the decision came out from DES, we went over the whole thing, over all of the changes that DES put in place that they were going to have to follow at 140. And unfortunately, as it to us, unfortunately, the way the court systems work in the United States is until you have unfortunately, until you have damage, you can't ask for relief. And he said, it's unfortunate, I know that if something was to happen over there, then you go looking for relief, and he says it's after the fact, but he says, unfortunately, that's the way it works. And he said, when they stated in their decision, DES stated that there was nothing that they could use that would prevent them from being able to have that function at that facility. He said even if we appeal, we're not going to win, we're not going to reverse that part of it. He said they're firm on that. So he said we don't want to reverse the changes they've made since the hearing in March, because he said there are good things what they made them do, such as the pad and all of that stuff. And you know, John, we went all over that. So he said, I don't see where we would gain by asking for an appeal down to DES. He said, I don't know what we would get. He said, they're not going to reverse the decision. That's what we were hoping for. They would not allow them to have it. So he says it's unfortunate, but he's seen it in other places. He said that's the way the system unfortunately works. And you see it, we had the same thing happen in a smaller scale, but at Lockmere Village District, that's how it was formed, is because of the gas station contaminating those wells, if I'm not mistaken.
That's exactly right.
Correct, I'm a
And so,
user.
I mean, that was done after the fact. That was done I don't know what did those people do when the wells were contaminated, Joe?
That I don't know, that was
They
before
trucked
my
in-
time.
They trucked in water.
So, it's unfortunate, and as Renee said, he said, do you chase this with nothing that's going to change it? Or do we take our direction and go say, okay, let's not have all our eggs in one basket? That's what we had. I mean, our third well.
Yeah,
was
but they're
at that.
forcing us into that, and then you're putting $1 million bill onto the users, and I mean, how many users does a water district have? There's not,
Pat, it ain't
you
going
know.
to happen tomorrow.
I
mean, this
I
is gonna be
get
something
it.
we're going to have to start to plan for, but financially, there's no way it can happen.
Right.
I mean, the water district currently, we carry $627,000 worth of debt load a year. We only have a $1.2 million budget. So, we're trying to balance the best we can with what we have. Our resources are limited. So what we have for resources, we've done as well as we could to go out and chase, whether it would be grants or any type of monies that was out there. But that only a lot of that money is not 100%, it's
Right, it's
only a
matching,
certain percentage.
right.
So you got to have money to make up the other side of it.
Right.
And, we've taken on, I think we've increased our debt load maybe $100,000 since we've taken on the district, such as the projects. Now we've funded them short-term because of the interest. So some, like the Granite Street project, we've only got that funded for 5 years. So in 5 years, we'll be done with that. And the West Main Street project, that was the government money. I believe that's 20 years or so. I think it's 20 years on that. But that was half. They paid half, we paid half. We could have never done the West Main Street project otherwise. It was just cost prohibitive.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I know the court ruling as well as DES, they claim that, there's no sign of any damage right now that's going on. However, there's never in there any mention that for the past 3 years, they have failed EPA testing and have exceedances that include the heavy metals and CODs in 3 years in a row. And that's directly into the runoff that's going into the ground there. So there are problems. They are polluting the aquifer now. They do have exceedances and non-conforming runoff. The other thing that I've mentioned is the building that they have where they handle the MSW, the drain in there, according to the original permit on the smaller quantity of MSW that is running through there and handling and packaging, that is supposed to be connected up to a collection system, and it's not. So what we have is they're increasing their MSW, but they still haven't come into conformance with their original level. And they are still having exceedances. And the other thing asked for was proof that the treatment, I think you discussed, actually treats what these exceedances are. They built it to treat sedimentation. They didn't build it for treating the CODs and the heavy metals, nor do they have a way of cleaning it or protecting those from going into the wetlands. And we don't know if that actually is even on the wetlands. So I think a lot of those things are just being completely there's blinders on, saying, yeah, the wells aren't showing any things, but there are legitimate and recorded violations and recorded the exceedances. How can we get that to be,
The sad part is with, John, with DES, there's a pressurized sewer main coming down from Belmont down 140.
Yeah.
That dumps into the big interchange. And it was 2 years ago, they had a break in that, where that new house is built just beyond where the wetlands is. There's a new small house that's being built,
Yep.
right in a little piece of land there. Everyone know where that is?
The log cabin type house?
Yeah, log cabin type house. Anyway, it was right out in front of there, and sewage was coming up from the pump. So we showed up, and a gentleman from DES showed up. And I asked him what his emergency plan was, and of course he dug it out of his trunk and got it out. And, we weren't even on the list to be notified. And unfortunately, he was waiting for 2 septic companies to come with trucks so they could start to pick up what was coming from the pump station, because they couldn't shut it down, because that comes pressurized from Belmont. And they had to hook the trucks up somewhere, I think down where the Four Corners. I think they take a right and they have another pump station or something where they can back a truck in, and that's essentially what they had to do. So what we did is we went to our pump station, and we bought 30 gallons of liquid bleach, and basically started pouring it onto the open surface that was showing, just to try to treat as much as we could before it could get in. But you're dealing with DES right there, and there's sewage.
That's awful.
I mean, and the plans that they had, John, are so antiquated. I mean, it's sad. And you try to deal with this bureaucracy, and you'll spend yourself into oblivion trying to, I said to him, I said, where are we listed on here? And he's thumbing through the manual. I mean, it was a binder. And he's thumbing through it, and nowhere in there were we even on the list to be notified in the event that there was an episode like that.
You see, they don't have to report to DES. They only have to report to the EPA.
And I think
the
that's part of the
violations,
problem.
they don't have to fix it.
Here, that we're dealing with DES, and you're talking about EPA, and the two of them don't ever talk.
That is the
They-
issue.
They do not have to go and report to DES previously. Now you have the monitoring wells.
Now we got the monitoring.
Which will be
John's
interesting.
able to go on site now, okay? Because that's part of the best practices, that he can go over there supposedly and do inspections himself.
Excellent.
which we plan on doing on a regular, we're gonna put it on an agenda, and we're gonna regularly do that. And, you know, if he sees what he thinks is violations, then he's gonna report it. I mean, we're gonna take a stance that way, because we can now. Supposedly, which, and I don't know because I don't have the information, but when we were at that public hearing, I asked the question of how well-trained the individual was that was going, but he wasn't at the meeting, you remember? How well-trained he was in going and inspecting these, because now there was going to be, quote, this inspection done by them. I don't think we will get something in writing from him on what that inspection's going to entail, and I think what John's planning on doing is when he's going to do an inspection, to go with him, to see what the inspection entails that they're doing. I mean, and I hear what you're saying, John, but I don't know how, I mean, you can beat yourself against the wall only so much, and you get nowhere with it. I mean, like you said, you're dealing with EPA, you're dealing with DES. We dealt with DES. This was state of New Hampshire, DES out here. And when I saw that, I just shook my head. I said, this is ridiculous.
Do you need us to be there Tuesday night?
I don't think so, Pat. If it doesn't go well, then I will call you and we'll have to get another. But I would think with their statements of what they made before, they were in support of it. It's no different than the tri-community aquifer protection that was put in before my time. I didn't have anything to do with that, but from my readings of what we're looking for, the GAA, I think when that tri-community aquifer was set up, I think they copied a lot of the same stuff that's in the GAA into that when they set that up, and Catherine probably knows more. I know when Wayne Crowley, when we were in front of Northfield, talking with him, Wayne Crowley was involved with that, I understand. And he said a lot of it looked like, he said, I wouldn't be surprised if we copied from GAA to set up the perimeters that we put in the tri-community aquifer protection. So, and they're already in that. I mean, they signed on with that back when Northfield and Tilton get that together with them. So, I can't see them saying no. I'd be shocked if they did.
I don't think they'll go back on their word.
No, and it was in the minutes, and I'll have the minutes with me. But hopefully we can get them. I asked John, I said, well, why is he, well, he'd like to try it one more time. I guess DES, probably their protocols, you know, they like to have the governing bodies for the communities in which it's going to affect, have them have signatures. So.
Wasn't Belmont's water supply in the same aquifer?
It's got to be, Captain. That's a huge aquifer. It's got to be.
I wonder
I'm not
what...
positive. I think they...
It's up from yours.
But I think they draw from more than one source, so...
Who's
I
that?
think
But I think Belmont has wells
yeah, I think they have multiple also.
in the same aquifer. I was just
Like
curious.
Franklin draws from multiple sources.
Yeah, I was curious what their rating is on their own. Be interesting, but I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll sign it.
So, and then, like I said, the application's down there, it doesn't have their signature, so we'll try to get their signature, we'll have a new application to have their signature applied, and then we'll send it in. And I brought in, this is the draft copy, just so you can see what you're dealing, you know, what we deal with this is unbelievable. I mean, you start to put this stuff together, and it's, you know, when you're only doing it part-time, and we had to hire an engineer to do it because there's just no way we'd get this done.
I bet.
I mean, it's just way beyond our capabilities. And
Wow.
so, and unfortunately, and I've said this in public before, I'm not ashamed to say it, this should have been done when Ken put the walls in.
But at least you're getting it done now.
We are. I mean, it should have been done then. I mean, once, and even when you read back through the GAA, when it got approved to be a large water withdrawal, groundwater withdrawal for a public water source, that's when it should automatically went, and then the application started. So, in Northfield, I mean, Northfield and Belmont, back when Ken was doing that, had to have notification, they had to be notified that the water was going to be drawn out of the aquifer. I mean, because he went through all the permitting processes to get the two public wells out there. I mean, when he was shutting down Knowles Pond. That's what it was all about. And that was all through, pushed by DES.
How
That's the
long
other
ago
thing.
was that?
98 is when that started.
98?
Yeah, when they first opened the wells up. And that is, was all pushed by DES, trying to get communities away from an open water source.
Yeah.
And there's no question, our water source is much better than what it was when it was on Knowles. I remember that. It was not a good water source, especially in the summer.
How often do you test the wells? Once?
How often do we test? We
Once a
test our
year?
water once a month.
Once a month. So you would know quickly if there was a problem.
Yeah, Joe, yeah. And we take raw water samples before it goes through the treatment facility also. Yeah,
That's nice,
so, yeah.
but it makes sense.
Yeah, we have the ability to take it from each well to see what we have, because each well is different, even though the draw are not the same. And that all has, we rehab our wells too every 2 years.
What does that entail?
That entails, we bring a company in, they pull the well, they pull the pump up out of the well, they hydro-freeze the well, and they flush it. Because what happens is we have a big screen, okay? And when you're pulling large water, you're pulling minerals towards your well casing, okay? Toward the open source. And they get clogged, okay, in the screen. They plunge it, they freeze it, they plunge it, and they suck them right out. So it cleans the screen. And we also, had never been done in this area, they were doing it in Keene. It's called ice pigging. We had a company come up. We had, of course, the water from our pumps to the treatment plant, which is by the road, the pump there where we treat the water, is all raw water, so whatever you take out has never been treated in the pipes from the pumps. So the last time we had the wells rehabbed, we had this company called in ice pigging. They open up the line and they fill it with ice, okay, from there to the pump station. They shut it back up, you hook everything back up, and we ramped up, we opened up in front of the pump station, in front of the treatment station, we opened up the hydrant in the front, and you force it out, and it cleans the inside of the lines.
Isn't that
Nice. And
interesting?
the nice thing about it is you get a blockage or a jam, you just let time set and it melts and out it comes. That's called ice pigging. Yeah, the truck came up and it freezes it, shoots it.
Makes it into a slush? I mean, it can't be solid.
No, it's just like a bunch of ice, like crushed ice.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
And you put that in and then you force it with your thing and it cleaned the lines.
It's scouring it.
Yeah, scouring the lines. Yeah.
Did that produce noticeable? Like, everybody should be doing this, huh?
Well, it should have been done before, Jack. Really should have. Because, it's just, stuff accumulates on the inside the lines.
It's raw water, right?
And you just shot it out. We had a big holding facility because they were treating it. And it shot it into that big holding area. And they treated it, and then we got a discharge permit, and we just discharged off this side. So,
Sounds well thought out.
yeah, and, they were doing it in Keene because they had a lot of problems with buildup inside their lines, and that's why that company, and we'd never heard of it before. And John went to a class down in Manchester, and the guy from Keene who happened to be there was talking about it, and we said, you know what, so we were lucky we did not have to have the company come from their main location. They were already in Keene, so they were able to come up after they got done in Keene. Saved us a lot of money on transportation. So, and it worked. That was the biggest thing.
Very nice.
And like, there's minerals in the water all the time, and that's why we flush twice a year the hydrants. And you see what happens when we flush them.
Yep.
And no different than this guy with his hot water heater, Catherine. And when we run into a problem, is when we have a large water withdrawal, such as J. Jill, for instance. They have a fire suppression system with a pumping capacity of 3,000 gallons a minute. Okay? And what's happened in the past, doesn't happen anymore, but it has happened in the past, is that they would have New Hampshire Fire Protection. Their company goes around and they, because of insurance, they yearly run a pump test, ramping up their pumps. We have a contract with them that we provide 1,800 gallons a minute to their facility. They came up, their pump is 2,000 gallons maxed out. The gentleman over-revved their pump 150%. Why, I don't know. Took it up to 3,000 gallons, and he ran it. Basically what it does is it will pull water through. If our pumps kicked on, which happened, okay, because he was drawing water so fast, the reservoir came down. It kicked on, and it said, and then it kicked on the second pump. So both pumps were on. Well, one of our pumps is 800 gallons, one's 500. But what it does is it starts to over-rev your own pumps at the pump station because it's pulling water so hard. And when water goes an opposite direction than it normally goes, that's when stuff comes out of your pipes that you've never seen before. And we've had that happen a couple of times. And the phone calls come from exit 20 from the restaurants like no tomorrow.
That's when the black stuff comes up.
Yep.
Wow.
And we've had to send letters to the corporations, unfortunately, because the people that are running here, such as Lowe's, Home Depot, Kohl's, any of them you name out there, if you try to deal with someone local here, you get nowhere.
Yeah. They don't know, they have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you, maybe.
Or it just gets on their desk and it sits
Yeah.
there. Nothing happens. So with anyone, like the Tilton School's been very good. They have a fire pump test they do up there. Kohl's, Lowe's, Home Depot, J. Jill. Who else does? There's maybe a couple more that have fire pumps. And so we have an agreement with them now that they contact the office and we schedule that when that's going to happen. Because what we do a lot of times, a lot of these happen, we wait till after we flush the hydrants in the fall.
Less than that.
Yeah, because we've already done our system. So that way when they're pulling water, they're not causing another disturbance. So there's a lot more to it than when you turn the tap on, you get clean water. It's not as easy as that.
People take it for granted.
Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're very blessed to have the clean drinking water we have.
It's good water.
Yeah, we're very blessed.
They meter that water when they do the test?
Do they what?
Meter the water when they do the test?
No.
The fire suppression? It's just a fee
It's part of what they get
to have
to
the
have
system.
the system hooked up to them. Yeah.
It's planned cost.
Any questions more? I hope
That's it?
I've given you the best, I mean, it's the outlook that we're looking at, and
Good information.
it's,
Very good.
Yep,
I wish it was
excellent.
better, but we have to take, sometimes we're dealt with the hand we're dealt with, and make the best of it. I just, like I said, the direction we're gonna take is just so that we're going in another source, or look for another source. We have the ability to hook to Franklin down on West Main Street, and we've looked at that, called an interconnection. It's great for Franklin, it's not great for us.
Gotta pull that water up the hill, huh?
Their elevation's lower than us. So therefore, the high spots on our system, it would not provide water to. That's the problem with that. I mean, if it was an emergency, we could hook to them. But we'd have to, in order to do it right, it would be very expensive to put and it'd be right down there in front of that new dollar store we turn to Hannaford's. Would have to be an underground booster pump station. Which, that's why we got rid of the one we had on, the underground station we had on Winter Street. That's why we have the above ground pump station, because they don't want anybody underground anymore. I mean, to put a person underground is act of Congress. I mean, you gotta have one person above, you gotta have the air tested, you gotta have ventilation, you gotta have this, you gotta have that. It's just, to put a pit underground is almost costed prohibitive.
Are you permitted to take groundwater samples anywhere in the aquifer?
When you mean anywhere in the aquifer, what do you
Let's
mean?
say, we have somebody that we suspect that perhaps their groundwater is contaminated in some way and going into the aquifer. Could you go over there and just do a groundwater sample? Do you have the right to do that and do your own
I don't
test
know,
of it?
I'd have to look at the legality, see if we have the right. I mean, we own the water rights, the water franchise in both Tilton and Northfield. Not Belmont, but in Tilton, Northfield, we do.
The health officer in Northfield could do that.
Even-
And if there was a suspicion that it was in the Belmont side, the health officer in Northfield could, in conjunction with the health officer in Belmont, inspect that, because that's one of the authorities of a health officer is safe drinking water.
Because it would be nice to see, after they construct their sediment and that pond, to go over there in somewhere, and if there's any standing water left over after an outflow from that pond, to take a collection to see if that runoff is actually treating what it's supposed to, and have our own independent test done,
It would be a Belmont thing, wouldn't it?
once they construct it.
Wouldn't that be a Belmont thing? Because it's in Belmont?
No, see, now I think with the best practices that are being put in place, and now that DES, I think, John, we have the right through the water district to be able to go out there and do inspections, and I don't know why that wouldn't be included as part of the inspection.
Nice.
If you
Could
want-
take a little bottle
That's
of
a
water
level of
and run it
protection
through.
for us, right there.
If you want to take a sample of water,
From
especially...
the end of the spillway.
Especially, I think, John, after if we had a heavy storm,
In the,
we had a heavy storm, say, like we've had in the last couple of years, where I said, instead of a 50-year storm, it was a 100-year storm that we hadn't had. Going over and taking a sample after something like that.
so after the pond's collected a lot of leachate, and then
Had
it
spilled
fills
over,
up,
if it
and
spilled over,
the
then-
spillover, see if some of that spillover is actually treated.
Yeah, I'll bring that up to John to pay attention, and that if we have something like that, to go over. I believe that he has the ability now, where we have the best practices, that he can go over and participate in as far as doing inspections on his own. And I don't believe that they can deny him going in there.
I'd like to see something like that done.
When is the annual meeting this
Our
year?
annual meeting, the second Tuesday in April.
Okay.
It will be, I believe, first Tuesday, first Tuesday in April.
5th.
No, it used to be the first, now we moved it to the second because of the supervisor of the checklist asked us to.
Okay.
We did that last year, we moved it because they have a conflict with the school, with the grace period to be able to, because they have to have a workshop or whatever, so people can sign up so many days before, and it was falling right on the school meeting, so they couldn't do two at once. So they asked us to move back 1 week, and that way they actually have their workshop. Supervised checklists have their workshop the week after the school meeting. So it is the second Tuesday now.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep, 7 o'clock. Okay. If you have any questions, call.
All right.
Or if you have it, like with Catherine, with that individual, if you have anyone like that, send them over to the Water District.
Oh, yeah, I did right away.
Yep. Because, we'll take care of that.
Yeah, and the response was extremely quick. It was very nice. It was very, very nice.
That's what we're there.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate
Good
it.
evening.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis.
You're welcome, Mr. Decker.
Still in public anymore? You said you wanted to speak to us in the public meeting?
Yeah, we just want to talk to you just...
All right, come on up before we go to Bob. We're running a little bit late.
Melanie and I are just closing, well, first off, Melanie, I wanted to say Melanie was an enormous help, as always. When I'm out, Melanie, as you know, is my backup, and we had some interesting calls the last couple of weeks. One involved a client that had some legal aid involvement, and then Melanie and I were able to kind of tag team to be able to handle both the clients together. So anybody she talked to, we both talked to together, and we met with them earlier this week, so that worked out very well. So there was no, well, we said this to this person and we said that to that person. That kind of closed the gaps, and I think that worked well. And then tonight I'm signing the thank you notes for the Christmas fund, because they all are going out. And Christine and I have been working on those. And as you know, the Christmas fund we were way over our numbers this year than we were in previous years.
What was the end total? You never got to send out that.
Well, you'll get them tonight, because I don't have the final total until
Okay.
tonight. Because we break them down into kids, seniors, and then families. So I will get you a number tonight.
The numbers are definitely way up. We were really busy this year.
And
Really busy.
we don't know why, but they were all served. I mean, even last week, I got a call from the school nurse. I don't even think I told you this on my personal phone. She said, I know you could help me. This kid needs, fourth grader needed some school clothing, so I was able to manage getting that.
Good.
So I wanted to just go over briefly from my perspective, so that you understand what happens when Heather leaves. And sometimes we do have glitches because no process is ever seamless, but it's been pretty seamless. What Heather does is forward an email to me with what she is aware of open pending cases, and just gives me a kind of a brief rundown. I'm waiting for this from them. They may be looking for housing, those types of things, and what her thoughts and feelings on that are. And so every time I field a call, I first open the list to look, make sure that we're on the same page. And if it's somebody that's not on the list, a majority of my phone calls are beginning inquiries. So I explain to them the process about where to get an application, extend my help if they need help filling it out, tell them where to sign up for an appointment, and then Heather meets with them the next week. A layer that we've added this time, due to some recent cases, is just that from now on, if it's somebody that has spoken to both of us on the phone, then the following week when she meets with them for appointments, I'll come here and meet with her so that that we're just on the same page. And then sometimes the client feels more comfortable knowing that, but I had a rapport with her, and now I'm talking to both of you. And but I didn't know if you had any questions. This last time, I think we had one case where there was some confusion. I think in the end, what happened was some layers of miscommunication due to the fact that the client, bless their heart, were not kind of familiar with the process because they'd never had to access it before, and it was overwhelming to them. And when we met with them, I think we all ended up on the same page and were able to assist them with no issues at all. And sometimes that does happen with communication, because people's perception of what you said or vice versa can be a little different. I didn't know if...
And then there was another case too that it was very helpful to have that I was dealing with most of December, and I said to her, you're going to have this while I'm out. She was well aware of it because she had been in the office when I'd been dealing with it. And
I think that we do have those kinds of cases where they'll go to you where they really have already gone to Heather, which they've already gone to Gail, and, you know, they're trying to circumvent the issue. It seems though, in this last holiday season, that a few more concerns have come our way. I'm going to say concerns because I don't really think that they were complaints. But I think more concerns were coming our way, and Catherine used to always handle those without kind of our knowledge, and just used to call Melanie and, just kind of just go out. But now we're aware of what's, and it seems like there's a lot more this year than there have been in the past. And it's been more busy, and therefore a lot more has, it seems, probably because you've taken some time off, but,
Yeah, I never take 2 weeks off. This week, here I did.
and
Not a good plan.
it seems like more than one person has come in and tried to access the system and said that, well, I've been trying for a week, or I've been trying for 2 weeks, and the ones that have come in I've talked to you about. I don't know if Gail directly calls you or not, but
She usually emails me. I think that's the...
I think that's been a clear issue that a known issue from my perspective. You've called them as soon as somebody comes in, right?
Either calling or emailing.
And that's the only, other than that, that they're not.
I have a question.
Sure.
All this talk about email and electronic transfer of information, is that not subject to 91A, the right to know law? Can I request your emails and now find, and why not?
Because it's welfare, it's
Not with
confidential.
welfare, you can't. It applies to everything. 91A report doesn't apply to welfare, because under statute, they're protected confidentiality.
Then it shouldn't be sent by email, because email is not
Well, we
is
checked-
not a confidential, considered a confidential avenue to send those types of documents.
We have checked.
It depends on the information. If you're just getting a message that says, you have clients that need to be called back, or you're getting a message, so-and-so, Catherine Dawson called you and needs assistance, and her number is, that's no longer confidential once it's gone out by email.
We checked with, I've checked with LGC. I mean, actually, you should
Check
see
with the
the,
Attorney General's office as it pertains to 91A.
I mean, Legal Aid has sent us, you've seen the emails.
Legal aid actually sends it to us via email, so I'm not
With that
sure.
little confident, if you're reading this
And you're not
message,
supposed to.
and it's not addressed to you,
Right.
forget what you just read.
No,
Yeah,
in this last time that Heather was gone, I made a snafu. Heather had asked me to cover for her. Similar to what Pat said, I am not accustomed to her ever leaving 2 weeks at a time. So the second week, I think it was Gail called me on Tuesday, and I said, oh, I didn't know I was covering this week. I actually did say that, but it didn't matter. I was right there and accessible. But I would never have said that to a client. I was saying it to Gail, but I'm not used to Heather leaving at 2 weeks. And we normally don't do that because that is trickier, because it sets appointments out, further. Unfortunately, Heather's worked here a long time, so she has a lot of vacation time. In Sanbornton, after 15 years, I have 1 week, so that doesn't talk
More.
Boy, we better be looking at an employee policy.
Hey, be quiet.
I don't care what they do in Sanford.
I just meant that doesn't happen in reverse, because I never get time off. And I think that it is true, sometimes people do call numerous avenues. My experience has been that that's not always a ploy to do something negative. Sometimes when you're very frantic about a situation in your life, it can feel very overwhelming, and you're just calling because you want someone to offer you some assurance that it's going to be okay. So sometimes there are nefarious intentions behind it, hoping to get a different response from a different person, and sometimes it's somebody, like in this situation, who truly had never worked with the system, and it was difficult to trust the system. So I try to stay open. One of the difficult things is how much assistance for me to offer, because there can be a negative component to people getting the message, she doesn't know the story. So like, if Heather had met with somebody numerous times and requested a job request, and I didn't know about that, they came to me and I said, of course I'll give you a voucher. Every time Heather's on vacation, now they've learned, I know where to go. So we're cautious about the type of assistance. I still need you to have an appointment with Heather, but how can I walk you through the process? How can we refer you to other emergency services? How can I get a shelter placement for you? So certainly I never ignore the client, but there's also a large caution to do too much too, and that can happen also when you have an outside source, because believe it or not, if they call and speak to Gail, what that does, unbeknownst to Gail, who's being kind-hearted, there's a legal clock on somebody revealing to you that they have a welfare emergency. So if they've spoken to Gail and she says, innocently enough, I'm sure we can get your phone number and get you some help, from that day we have 72 hours to place them somewhere.
If they're homeless.
Or we're in legal trouble. So if they haven't given Gail the whole story and she's just said, you know, I'm so sad for you because she is so compassionate, sometimes we can get in trouble legally.
We gotta be careful what we say.
You know, so that it's kind of difficult to know the same thing happens in any town, because they'll press any extension they can get because they need somebody.
Poor Tim gets
to
stuck
listen to them.
talking.
Fortunately, I think we're all trained here in town hall, especially Gail, to give the right
I
answer.
didn't mean she
Oh, no,
wasn't.
no, I mean, I'm
you know,
just saying,
she's
especially
our-
Gail, because the public heard all this, to give the right answer, which is,
Gail always
Heather's
picks up
phone
the
number.
phone to call me
Yep.
when she needs to. And she also has, and I've given her, of course, permission, utilize my personal phone, however you need to
Just
reach
not to
me
give it-
when you have an emergency. And she's great.
So if somebody comes to me, not that they have, but if somebody were to come to me, I shouldn't be talking to them at all. Really, I should give them the proper phone numbers, and I'm sure these are the people that can direct you in the right direction and take care of whatever the issue is, but I shouldn't be listening to the issue or anything, is what you're saying.
Yeah, actually, that is accurate.
Okay. Well, it hasn't happened, but see, this is a training experience for me as well.
I am talked to constantly, just simply because of almost share clients, but it's a canned response.
Yeah.
It's like I was thinking the other day, I need to carry your business card with me.
I dropped her off.
And
Just call this number now.
Actually, that's a good idea.
How's your extension cord situation?
Okay, I'll actually get you some, what I'll do is I'll leave a bunch of them downstairs tonight, and you all can have a stack of them.
and
That would
need
be
to carry
a
them with
great
me when
thing
I
if
do
I had a
inspections.
couple of those, that if it ever came up or I knew of somebody and they were really, were having a hard thing, it's like, look, this is the person you need to talk to.
And we can figure out I can figure out a plan, and she can, we run cases off each other all the time, I think.
I agree. And Heather and I have had the conversation is things, if they do get busier and something needs to change and me being a little more involved, then we'll figure that out, and the same vice versa. If I need more support from her, because it's important to have that peer support.
Do you guys take Gail in to these conversations and keep her apprised of situations that are coming up? Because she has to field this in town hall. And she's had,
I don't know the answer to that question.
I can answer
That's
that.
Heather.
Gail is very good about saying, Heather, sit down and let me pick your brain. And she
heard her say that very sentence.
and she actually has. And we had Catherine for how many years?
50, 60, I don't know. Seemed like forever.
She knew.
I don't mean that, Catherine.
She knew exactly, especially around the holidays, all the different pieces that were going.
Yep.
And she also knew that if somebody, called and said my answering machine was full, it's probably because they called 19 times. And when I opened my phone, you'd see the number 19 times in a row because they kept calling. Well, Gail's new to this, so it's when she stops me and says, okay, stop, I need your attention, it's been a wake-up call to me. And I think we're working on that.
I personally have had wonderful interaction with Gail. I feel like she probably feels the same, and she has called me and said, I have somebody standing in my office. I have been sympathetic towards Gail in that situation, because what do you do when somebody in need is standing
We
in
don't want
front of
that.
you? And she has handled it
Beautifully.
perfectly.
Yes.
And she will dial my personal phone and say, Melanie, can you call me back in the office? This is really important. I have somebody here with me. And I will say, of course I will, so that she's making sure that the client is being met, but that my personal cell phone isn't being
Yeah,
released.
she doesn't give out our personal cell phone,
And so she's been
which is important.
wonderful, and I've had Joyce herself have to call me about an emergency and handled it in a very professional manner, so, but I want you to know that I'm open to, if you feel like something didn't go smoothly, I want to address that, we want to address that, and so we're open to that in the future, if you feel like
I
something...
have nothing but admiration for the job you guys do, and listening to how closely you work together, I think that's just terrific, because the people that need the services which you provide are they really need them, you know, and having you guys coordinated is such a wonderful thing, and Ms. Bestick is just a gem, the queen of town hall. Sorry, Cindy.
When she calls me on the phone, she sounds so pleasant, and I always think to myself, if I was in a crisis, the tone of her voice would be, she's very chipper, of course, we would like to help you, this is what we could do. And so I always think that would be comforting to me, because I have myself been in a place where I felt frantic. I'm sure we all have, so it's important to find that warm body to listen to you.
And the important thing to know, too, is if one of us, the town welfare can do things in an
Just
emergency.
speak up just a little bit
Town
here.
welfare can do things in an emergency.
Yep.
They can do things like stop an eviction. They can do
Yep.
things like stop the lights being shut off very
Yep.
quickly.
Yep.
So those are the things that we can both step in for each other and do without making a decision, but just say, can we have a hold on the account? Can we have a hold on the account? And that stops...
Can
the-
Gail do that?
No.
No, not at this point.
No. So the two of us can handle it.
Okay.
And it works. Like, I will call, and we have a special number we call to do that.
It's
So,
like a bat signal, Joe. They give you
A telephone pulse goes up, right?
a special number.
and they will hold it. So,
Yep.
so that prevents, like, the lights being shut off or the eviction happening. And that's one of the things that we work together to do.
The Utilities Commission has a certain amount of time by law when we call to reveal that we're a welfare officer.
Yep.
That they will say no to the client every time.
Sure.
If we pick up the phone and call, they'll say, you have, 4 days or whatever.
10 days or-
That amount of, depending on the utility.
Yep.
So, and I guess that probably changes from place to place. Some people have deputy welfare officers. In San Bernardino, we're very unique. I'm elected. We're the only town left in the state of New Hampshire that has an elected welfare officer. So, it's different everywhere
Yep.
you go, and it changes. from
So when
place
she
to place.
disappears, they call me and they say, Heather. And I remember one time something happened. I don't know what happened. And they said, you're covering. I said, okay.
Yeah, that's, sometimes you just have to...
We wing it.
We're very fortunate that we have this kind of relationship with you, Samberton, and that Samberton supports your efforts on our
The town
behalf.
of San Bernardino feels the same. We're very, very blessed to have an experienced officer who will step in. I mean, anything could happen. I could be,
Sure.
ill or something without
Fall down and
planning.
break your knee,
It's-
and heaven forbid.
Thanks, Joe.
Heaven forbid.
You'll take the elevator.
Yeah.
But I feel that San Bernardino has articulated the same, because if not, you would be calling the local government center to hire someone per diem, and
I
it
don't
would
want to
be-
go there.
You'd be getting different answers every day.
Oh, gosh, yes, depending on who answered the phone, yeah.
And that can be very tricky also, so.
Right.
The other thing is, though, we really do need to say that, I've experienced a lot lately about how the Christmas fund saves the town money. You see other towns that don't have this benefit, and then they go to the town for welfare.
In January.
First week of January, because they don't,
Because they spent all their money for Christmas.
So this is an enormous benefit to the town, and, but it was a major undertaking this
It
year.
was a lot of work. I don't know what was different this year. It
We need a
was
bigger committee.
a blessing, but it was a lot of personal work. So
Saturdays, Sundays,
maybe next year we might be looking to
tap into some more resources.
entice some more volunteers.
Well, come back in October or whatever, when your season starts, or whenever your season starts for this.
Well, I think,
And maybe
There's
we
plenty of
can,
people who will help.
I believe that's true. I think
Oh,
when we
gosh,
were in the
yes.
throes of it, it was like, and everybody else in their personal life was at the same place
Yeah.
because it was just before Christmas. So
I
we
s-
need to start a little earlier.
if we could, like, I was thinking, if we could station people, like, at the senior centers to do, because it seems to be that there is a gap between some of the senior applications getting in. So if we, it used to be that the management company at the senior complexes would turn in all the applications, and they'd send a checkoff sheet with everybody who applied. Well, they don't do that anymore.
If we can't even get them to do their jobs, never mind.
So, I got
Ask
about,
somebody to fill out an
So how many
application.
Oh, bless their heart, one gentleman collected all the applications, and we love him dearly, but he has Alzheimer's. Well, he didn't know what he did with the application.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
2 days
That's
before
bad.
Christmas,
We're running
we
around
were
like
making like
baskets.
50 baskets and presents, and it was crazy. So that's okay, because sometimes things like that happen, and you just have to roll with it and say, so now, first you have to take a note so you remember next year.
don't let that happen.
And then we have to do something different in the years to come, and there is nothing wrong with growth. And what always worked sometimes doesn't work anymore, and you have to do something different.
So if we could station volunteers like at the complexes, like on a couple days in November, and we post that, and then we could do it at the senior center, I think that would work better next year. And then maybe somebody at the rec department. Then the seniors don't travel, so at least the ones in these complexes. The idea of a gentleman driving all the applications in just didn't work so well.
I told you I would do it. I have no problem
We didn't know
volunteering to do
until
it.
After that.
I have no problem doing,
you're
volunteering
already
to do
working
that.
on next year.
You know where I live, I'll be more than happy
So
to.
thank you very much.
All right.
Please know that I'm open if you need to call me, you have questions and concerns. And I would never intentionally allow something to slip through the cracks, but even when you're trying as human beings, sometimes things do
It
happen.
does happen. Is there any way we can, like, get some of your cards, or however?
I don't have any right now,
Yeah.
but I have them coming in. I ran out, so I will.
You know a guy that's here every day in town. You could send down, you could,
Yeah, I hear you're pretty
the
close.
husband. And he could bring some cards maybe and drop them off with Joyce and or Gail, and she can distribute them to where they need to be.
The husband, we were very thankful for the husband's muscles during the Christmas program, because
I don't think they've been told yet.
it was fantastic, and I will
Okay.
get you cards.
Okay, thank you
right.
very much.
Thanks.
Anything else?
No, we're good.
That's it.
You've taken up all of Chief Cormier's.
Chief, you don't have to say anything.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys, and see you later.
All right.
Oh, I gotta talk to Heather for just a second. Since you won't be in until Friday.
Can I do it? Can I do it? Is there any public input? Input. Nope, nobody here. Again.
That was public input that we just had.
Input.
Chief, moving right along. 2 weeks I've stayed away from chocolate. Tonight, I feel it creeping up. I feel it creeping up.
It's only one Butterfinger, or maybe two.
I may be going in myself.
45 minutes late. Okay.
All right, I'll try to,
You don't have to read your report because we got your report.
good, all right. So
Yeah.
what I'm going to do is skip over that then and talk about a couple things that aren't on there, that's good stuff, but I didn't have a chance to mention it. The only correction in my report, and Gail just updated me, is the fella from the New Hampshire National Guard that's going to do that coalition briefing. And I haven't seen that either, so I'll be seeing it with you for the first time. That's the 21st, not the 20th. So what happened was when I typed this up, I used today's date and went 7 days. But So, skipping past that,
So Rick Frost is coming in the 20th
21st.
first.
Yeah.
We'll confirm the time when we do the agenda.
Yep.
Yeah, and
That's the,
I think
That's the consortium, the National Guard on the...
that Peter and I met with him. I think it would probably take somewhere in the ballpark of about 40 minutes, I'm guessing.
It's going to take all of your time that night.
Okay, got it. So, I'll just email the report. So I just want to talk about a couple things. We're busy right now, obviously, call-wise and stuff, but I want to talk about some different kind of busy. So we're kind of working on some partnerships right now, some community stuff. I like this kind of stuff, and it's all kind of happening at the same time, so it gives me that chance to juggle a lot of balls in the air at one time. So I've been meeting with a couple different groups, and I'll kind of go down the list, and I'll add this to my report and then send a supplement. That way you don't have to take vicious notes. But, one group I met with is the Tilton Area Family Resource Network, Michelle Betts. And so they're a group that would, right now, if I came across a 20-year-old single mom, really down on her luck and also having an addiction problem, I could call Michelle, and they're going to step up to the plate. That I know. And she...
We got one down there on Deer Street.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to put the number in the report, but it's 960-2128 is Michelle Betts' number.
I got it.
So I've agreed to do, I said, Michelle, whatever you need, we're with you. We'll partner with you. I believe in what she's doing. The thing about Michelle's group is it's very small. It's just a couple people. And it has the potential to grow. They're not a 501c3 yet. They hope to be. And I said, when you get to that point, we can do some fundraising, whatever. She may end up starting to partner, obviously, with this potential Stand Up Tilton coalition. So, and we talked about that. So, but right now, she's a resource. The other thing going on is, I met with Kathy Keyser. She's from Northfield.
Here's the name.
Okay, got it. And
Yep.
I'll take care of that. I met with Kathy Keyser at Onions a couple weeks ago, and so her and her husband, they always do a fundraiser every year on their property in Northfield. And every year it's different. This year they decided that going forward with this drug addiction crisis we're facing, that they would do a fundraiser every year and give money to things like Michelle Betts' group or to our coalition, or so that if some kid needed to go to Teen Challenge in Maine and didn't have 2 cents to his name, Kathy would fundraise for that. So they're doing a thing on February 20th at the Legion, and it's going to have music and food, spaghetti dinner, all that. And so they asked both John, the chief of Northfield, and I to kind of partner with them every year and help pull this off. So John and I both agreed, hands down, Kathy, we're in, whatever you need, we'll help market it, put it on Facebook, all that stuff. So just a couple of good things there that people are stepping up. And so they're not big organizations, they're not big 501c3s, but they want to help. And I think people will chime in to help with them. Update on PEMI. So I think we talked before, like, we've always felt like there's that hole in a resource for ages 14 to 18. And you guys know that when I was at Plymouth, we started the PEMI Youth Center. And I think it's a great model. I think it's very successful. I'll gladly take anyone up there for a tour. And since its inception, somewhere around 2002, 2003, when we got it off the ground, I would say probably somewhere in the neighborhood, 30, 40 kids have gone through the program and gone off to college or gone off to good lives that probably weren't going to go off to good lives. Fair to say they wouldn't have. So we've been talking to them about doing a satellite down here, and yesterday I had a meeting with one of the other board members up there down here, Proctor and Tilton School, the Rotary, met, and then we kind of put together like a list of resources, whether it be the Rotary, the private schools, people in town that would step up and help this program survive and function if PEMI was willing to create the satellite, so use their license, use their 501c3, basically just set up a satellite location down here. And they're funded by Granite State United Way, which used to be Lakes Region United Way, and they also get some county grant money. So we brought it from Tilton. I had a 4 o'clock meeting here. I went straight to their meeting, and the other board member and I brought the Tilton presentation to them up there, and it was received with open arms. So they really do want to do this, and what's great about that is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you don't have to start a new 501c3, you could just find a location, and so it's really coming together. I won't say it's done, but it's close, and not meeting any resistance. It's doing like a PEMI South.
Yep.
So it's going to happen, I'd say. Like, we went from here to there last night, and it was met with open arms. They want to do it. And so, and
I
I
have to
think...
remind people the Pemmage ends just down in Franklin.
Oh, yeah. And recently, matter of fact, Jessica, the director up there, she was called coincidental, like all the stars are in the right place. She was going to a meeting with Granite State United Way today, and basically they're saying, you know, we want your organizations, if we fund you, to grow and cover more people, more towns. So the people that fund them are saying that. So
Where would you put this?
and you know, right now we're trying to get the final blessing from the PEMI to do this. Once we do that, then we would have to eventually agree on a location, which could be the church, could be wherever. And we haven't got that far yet. I know that, you know, we wanted to get over this first hurdle to get them to agree, that board.
Post office.
Yeah, so I mean, and,
This was part of the discussion.
I understand that, but that may or may not become reality, and I don't want I'm thinking about backup plans, because I think this is very important. You might talk with the Tilton Northfield Recreational Council if you do find yourself in need of a place. The Pines does a very great job with kids, little kids. They seem to graduate from the Pines program. It seems like it's not cool to go to the Pines, because that's for coloring downstairs, and they throw balls, but they have this facility that might help out, you know? I don't know if
temporarily,
it works
yeah.
for you, even temporarily,
yeah, so...
you know? But I would probably get in touch with them if you know, on some level somewhere.
I know that, like, Chuck Drew and Lisa Drew, we met with them just to talk about Every Child is Ours, getting
Yeah.
some space there.
Yeah.
And when we did, we said, would you be willing to consider having a satellite there? And the board was open to it, but they wanted to hear more. And at the
Yeah.
time, we were
Yeah.
just tire kicking at the time. But you're right, will it be the place to go? Will they go? So I actually talked to Dawn Schoenberger about this.
Yeah.
And I said, Dawn, what do you think? And she said, to be honest with you, she goes, if this opened tomorrow, I could give you a dozen names that could use it tomorrow. When she gets kids through her program, which is definitely different from the PEMI,
Yeah.
apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Though I think sometimes the kids could be the same at times.
Yeah.
So I
Same
said,
Her kids didn't get the penny.
so I said to
Some
Dawn,
background.
what do you think? And she's like, absolutely, Chief, I think we need it. I said, you sure? She goes, absolutely. She goes, I'd even be willing to help. She goes, I don't want to take it on under my umbrella. I can't, and she goes, I don't think the two would work together under the same roof at the same time. It's different things. But she said, I'm all over it. I said, well, do me a favor. I said, talk to the kids that you have and ask them, where would they go? What do they want? Would they go to the church? Would they go to the Pines? Would they go to wherever, the post office? You know, I said, just get their input for me. So I just asked her that a few days ago, and I'm waiting for her to get back to me. But it seems like from everyone I talked to, the need is there. You know, and I always said from the beginning, even when I came down here, I don't want to start something just to start it, but if the need's there, I'll stay awake nights to start it.
Well, when you have young teenagers roaming around in Riverfront Park at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning doing vandalism, there's a need.
There's
Our
a
kids
need.
are growing up on the street because there's no place for them
Absolutely.
to gather.
And that's all,
No
I'm hearing that loud and
organized
clear.
Groups, I mean, unfortunately, the Tilton Athletic Sports Center thing is all the way up on Autumn Drive.
A lot of these kids
So
couldn't
they-
afford the program
They
anyway.
don't, well, I've talked to them up there, and they would make,
They'll help, but how much
they
can
want to
you
help too, but you can't get there. A 13-year-old can't get there.
They're from here.
So, there's a need. You know, there's a need. Just go down in the summer and watch what happens at the skateboard park,
Right.
They closed that because they tore it up,
you know?
ripped it up.
What?
They ripped up the skateboard
They
park
opened
over
it
in
again.
Northview.
Sirens?
They opened it up
Did
again,
they reopen it? Yay, yeah.
but it's not a safe place for young kids.
Right, yeah, you and I talked
Just
about
not.
that. Right,
Just sit in
That's
Riverfront Park and watch.
yeah, I know.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So, so it is, I think it's going in a great direction right now. So Jessica, the director up there, is going to get some answer to questions that kind of came up yesterday is, so when we pick a location, would the state have to inspect and improve it? What training would the volunteers have to have, that sort of stuff? And I think those are easy questions to get answered. And so she's working on that, and we'll probably, within the next couple of weeks, have another meeting. And then I think there's where we start to really start thinking about location. But everyone's aggressive about it. It's going, we're not tire kicking anymore. And so I just want to keep you on the update on that.
When you get to the spaghetti dinner thing, if you need help with that, let me know. I'm all about spaghetti with sauce, and I might be able to provide the spaghetti with sauce.
Okay. I'll actually call her when I get out of here then.
Yeah, let me know if I can be of assistance, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I think, it's just her and her husband, so I'm sure they would. And, I'll put her number in my report too when I add to it. And then the other thing real quick, and then I'll move on because I know you're running behind, is a couple, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, Tim and I met with emergency management just to talk about our EOC. And what we realized is like some of the investments we're doing downstairs right now, like with kitchen lighting, that sort of stuff, that all counts as in-kind match on grant money. So like if we wanted to get another generator, if we need anything, these dollars we're spending count towards that.
Well, that's good to know.
So it is good to know, and I thought it had to be after the application, but it can be before, as long as, so we're starting to keep track of what we do down there, as also it helps the EOC.
Well,
So-
speaking of expenditures down at the EOC,
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice that the electrical bill was for in excess of $500. And I was just wondering if you had put those out to bid.
The lighting that he did there the
All the
LED lighting was part of
cans
my 15
plugs
building
and-
improvement stuff.
Yeah?
So he'd give me a quote of 300 for that. And then when we started this end-of-the-year project to do that over, I asked him for a quote to do everything associated with the kitchen, and that was 300. So he said...
But he put it in one bill. He slicked you.
Oh, no, it's two separate bills. But he said it's easier if I do it now than do them at separate times. So he just hammered them all out. He's been straight out all year, and I've been calling him since October to come and do my LED lights.
I think the board needs to discuss this, because we haven't really discussed this. However, the rest of the town is utilizing another source of electrician for all of the town, for the senior center, for the town hall, for Riverfront, for the DPW, and you're using an entirely different one.
You might want to explore it because the price has been right and the service is superior.
Who's the name of the other one?
JP Carter.
Okay.
And he gives us a discounted rate,
Okay.
On top of everything else.
because we are utilizing him
For everything.
townwide.
All right.
It'd
Well-
be nice to get like a standard rate that, hey, this is how much it's going to cost per hour for
Right. And that,
service and...
he's done that for the town hall, for the senior center, for Riverfront.
Yeah, he does it for the
He's
parks.
consistently done that for all of us, but you're using someone that was used as a subcontractor back when we had the downstairs renovated.
I mean, for us too, whoever it is, whether it's JP Carter or him, we want to make sure that they're someone we trust to walk around and do electrical in the PD. That has
Absolutely.
value to us. I'm sure they are too.
Yep.
Just when we do pick subs to come in, that's one of the things.
Of course,
Whether
of course. I think you'll find that
Yeah.
that particular electrician, not the one you used, but the one we were discussing,
same,
is
yeah.
totally, yeah, he's a
Top-notch.
community guy, too.
Yep. Lives in town.
The other thing I was looking at the other day, and I went-
Right.
am I over time yet?
No, go ahead.
Yes,
We
but
got
go
all
ahead
night, don't
anyway,
worry
yeah,
about
sure.
So the other day I went over to Belmont for Unified Basketball, and I was in the parking lot, and I was looking up, and they had all these great LED lights to light the parking lot there. And I was talking to them over there, and they said they worked with Eversource to get them. So I didn't know I was going to actually talk to them and see if they would consider doing something like that for our lot, if they would cover the cost. I don't know if you guys have explored.
Those lights will be, are scheduled
Are they?
for, bulb maintenance. So there's a regular time they go out there, and I think if you coordinate it with that they will switch it to LED, and
When
then
they do it?
the cost will be different.
Okay.
Because, you know what I mean?
I'd never seen these before. They were flat, all LED, and they
Nice.
did the whole high school parking lot with them. I just thought that would be great for the PD too. And I guess they had actually switched the outside lights that face the building too, and I was thinking like the lights in front of my building, they should be LED. Just eventually,
Well,
but
it's significantly less cost to power them, they last longer.
Did you ask them up at PSNH?
not yet, no. I was gonna-
No, you should contact them.
Yeah, I was
Like I
gonna
said,
talk
they'll
to
have
them.
a,
Like the bulbs we putting in now downstairs, they use 9 watts.
it's amazing.
It's amazing. So.
And the electric cost goes down.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to share that
Were you thinking of, like, lights to light up more of the parking lot, that type of thing? So we'd have to put poles in as opposed to converting?
No, not necessarily. The corner of the buildings.
Right.
He just wants to switch over the existing lights.
Right.
Yeah.
To
Well,
LEDs.
we talked about putting some more lights, like,
Right,
out
in that
in the
back
back
corner.
corner of the
In the
lot.
back corner, you could put a pole, yeah,
And we'd have to put a pole or...
yeah.
I was gonna talk to them,
Yeah.
we get along great with
But
them.
the two back
See.
the two corners in the furthest part, the two corners, you could put a pole in there, because it's not going to obstruct anything, but do not put that pole back where we
No,
took it out.
Yeah, I mean, we have them. No, not that one. No.
Your favorite pole?
Yeah, my
I
favorite
still have
pole.
nightmares about that pole. No, the one that's in the back corner, though.
Blinking poles with...
Where Johnny cleared the trees.
Yep.
I'm gonna see if,
Yeah, check it out.
How close are the neighbors? We have to be careful, how high up we put lights and downcast lighting.
Well, we have to go according to our own rules, too.
right.
Well, we should. We don't have to, but we should.
I know.
So, I mean, I'll obviously
Thanks.
take that into consideration, too. I mean, they're awesome neighbors.
If it's a,
Yeah.
I met
if it's
that
an
guy.
Lucky to
emergent
have 'em.
situation, then we
Right.
wouldn't comply with
He
it.
likes having the police department
he
there.
does,
He
yeah.
likes it. So as long as it's not shining in his windows, he'll probably just
I
fine
wonder
it.
if there would be some sort of downcast pole that would light up the parking lot in that corner
Yeah, that's what I was...
They have shields and downcast fixtures.
without
and-
sticking it up here
Right.
to light it up. They might have some kind of downcast pole. I've seen them that the light is, so if I want to light up that's where my light is, on the pole.
Right.
Them in Arizona.
I'm gonna try and just go out and get them for a half hour and sit down with them.
Yeah, that would be nice. Anything else? Anything else for
Maybe
the
we
chief?
could find a solar one.
I'll be over here.
Okay. we'll
But
come up
Josh
with
Carter
something.
could find one.
What?
A solar.
Okay, we have the budget. Let's just go over it one last time.
One last time.
Yeah, well, Wednesday, We got to tell the budget committee what we've changed. Well, if everything is a go tonight, we'll have Tim forward this to the budget committee and say this is our,
Is this the one dated 1/11?
yes.
Tim highlight the changes.
Now, we did put in under, the highway, under the improvements,
Oh, I think you said what the changes were.
we went to 20,000. So that's a change. And then I don't understand why I think this is an incorrect under highway merit raise, because we made the motion to accept the figure of the bottom line figure, and that was 4,189, unless it's, oh, I take
That's
that
what it
back.
says on mine.
No, I know what the difference is. The difference would be the top line, director salary, we changed, so that would reflect that as well, so
Yep.
we need to make sure that that's, land use, we changed
$1.
professional
Consulting.
consulting to 2,500. Okay, and we have not done anything at all with the curbside contract yet.
Nope.
Well, we don't have any options,
Nope.
because once again, we're late in exploring it.
Do we have the correct figure according to the contract? The new contract in here?
I don't know if this is the figure from the
Joyce?
current offer.
Well, do you know what the current contract is? Can you look at the figure here and see if that's right there? The outside agencies, they're all the same. We didn't change anything. We just added the
Old Home Day.
Old Home Day into it, correct? Home Memorial, well, those are all the same. Now, PD, there was a change, correct? We,
Manville Road work?
highway is Manville Road, that's the other thing, was in Manville Road, and that was
Subcontractors.
subcontractors,
What line is that? Here it is, 720.
720, yeah. Oh, those are the trees. But on PD, wasn't there a line that I thought we changed after?
Did we switch out for the training? Because, or did we already budget for that?
We already
Because going
budgeted.
to the school.
I don't see any that are
No.
different from what the budget committee's approved. I think we did it before, early enough so that it was reflected in the previous.
So we know right now that we're going to have a cost of, do you have the curbside contract?
Yeah, the according to this, for year one, it's 211,000.
That's for both. Yeah, but we're only looking for the MSW, because the recycling should be paid for by the bags.
Yep, okay, the pay-as-you-throw is 116,000.
So what does that leave for MSW?
That is the MSW.
116.
116, which
And
is
we have
what should go in.
114.
And we have 114.
Right, but what I'm thinking, I don't know if he budgeted 3 months at the old, well, how many months at the old rate? Because our first year contract would be
It expires in May, doesn't it?
expired.
End of May.
End of May.
So I'm sure he took that into consideration.
The difference of 2,000. Okay. Can we ask that question to him tomorrow?
Sure.
And make sure that that's the case? And,
That 114 may end up being 116 if it's not in.
well, I would make a motion that if in fact the difference is going to be 116, I'll make a motion to change that to 116 if the finance director has taken into consideration the January to May at the old price, and the 114, 108 is the final price, then we'll leave it.
Why don't we make a motion to have the finance officer put the correct figures in for
Second.
I like that.
our
Second.
waste disposal?
Okay.
Made by Catherine,
I
seconded
withdraw
by
my
yours
motion.
truly.
Well, right now, we're paying $9,365.48 a month. So it'd be for 5 months, and then you want to do 7 months at 116,000 divided by 12.
Times 6.
So that's 48,290 for 5 months.
Okay, and then, so say that.
6 months.
48,290.
Oh, it's 6 months?
6 months. End of May, it starts in June, July, August, September, October, November, December. No, you're right.
So 5
5 and
months
7. No, you're right. 5 months.
At 9,365.48, and 7 months at, and then 116,000 divided by 12 times 7.
That could be Peter just in time.
Got it? So we're all set?
No, I have, now in Excel, so I'm going into Excel to do this. Where's Peter when you need him? Yeah, where's Peter?
Peter, what's 9658 times 5?
Plus,
It's like the chief's working on it. All right, hold on.
now he's doing Facebook.
Plus 9,365.48 times 5.
46825.
It's all falling out, sort of like my facial hair.
Well, I've got the whole thing.
Divided by 12.
Uniform.
I'm going to keep it uniform. There you go.
9,666.66 times, so plus 9,666.67. Because he would go to the second decimal, times 7 equals, so I want to add up 4.
We're looking at the budget.
827.4.
New and
And
improved.
67666.69 equals 114. Oh, 114,494. So why don't you make it 114,495?
All those in favor of our motion?
Aye.
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 Aye, I guess.
So tomorrow, the motion is, Tim's going to look at it,
Insert the correct number.
curbside contract, and insert the correct number for the budget tomorrow. It's going to be off like about $500.
Or thereabouts.
So that's the number he's going to correct? All right.
We're close. I have a question about the Manville Road.
Yep.
I think we just added 12,000 in Johnny's budget.
No, you should have added, is he going to do the grinding? No, the motion was the grinding,
The motion was for cutting and grinding.
right. So you have to add both of them.
Johnny didn't want to do the grinding.
Right, but I'm brought that up because I wanted to.
So that's more like $16,000.
It's 16,000, it's 4,000 plus 12.
Right, but if you look at this, what he said here was both would be 12,000 if it was done in February.
Nope. There's no figure there for stump grinding.
Right,
Oh,
but
right here,
yeah,
look
but
at
read his
his
note.
note. Here's his note right here.
What's that say? And stumps, hey, I'm good with that.
But
12? Really?
He has a note on his thing that
Right,
wasn't
was-
reflected in this, that he'd do the whole thing
I
for
thought we were at
12.
16.
Hey,
That's even
we just
better.
saved
so are you gonna
4,000.
let him do it in February?
Absolutely.
Trees and stumps.
Best time of the year, road's nice and solid.
Can I grab some
well,
butter?
normally it is.
Snickers?
I'll eat 'em all.
Is the Snickers thing empty?
I thought you gave that up.
Nice.
I did, but I'm just,
Trees and stumps.
all right.
I still wonder where the money's
So
coming from.
where
but-
did he put the 12,000?
He put it here and under subcontractor,
Okay.
right here, 27,000.
So, all right, so you're good with that?
Yep. All right, any more in the budget?
I have a question. So right now, you're still showing 65,000 into roads, streets, and bridges. And how much are you showing in sidewalks?
20.
20 in sidewalks, okay. All right.
Did we
But
budget?
here's the thing, we haven't discussed the amount of money to put into the road and bridges, because
That's just
that
conjecture
warrant
based on...
article, that's what we put in year after year.
Yeah.
And we had the discussion with Johnny, depending on what sidewalks we do, we may have to increase that by 10 or 15,000.
The one on, the first one he wants to do on the Mill Street side is $110,000, right? $100,000.
No, 100,000 was winter. I thought out here by the river was more like 12,000, 11,000.
11 or 12 grand, yeah.
Winter Street was the scary
And
one.
this was 25 grand right around the town
Yeah.
hall and up the...
So we have to decide what we're going to do.
I think we discussed that we might have to add an additional 12
Right.
12 to 14,000 or something into
God.
that fund.
We
That's
have
right.
to
So
do
that it
the,
funds it and funds it.
email
you have to
from
do
Bob.
around Town Hall. If you don't do around Town Hall, it's certainly going to be a liability.
Wow.
Friend, it's
All right, so that's what I mean. And then we discussed with him the possibility of shifting some of those road projects. So here we are, finally being able to put money into the sidewalks. We don't have to suck it all out from people's pockets this year. It could be, done over a couple of years.
Right.
Look at all the
Yeah.
years you saved.
All the years we raised and appropriated money for sidewalks and it
Never
didn't
did
get
It was
spent.
nothing but a slush fund.
Yeah, that was awful.
Did we include the cost of the auctioning of, or re-auctioning of the property, as well as revenues from the sale of the property on High Street?
Doesn't that money go to what's owed us? And anything above and beyond goes to the previous owner?
Yes.
We don't get to profit.
So like if we have to pay to re-auction, that's part of the cost we'd get back.
Whatever we've got invested in the sale of that property, we have the right to recoup before the previous owner would get any money whatsoever.
So if we budget for that, though, right? I mean, if we're going to be spending the money,
We don't spend it until after the auction.
We don't normally
but we have to put
budget
it,
for
put
those
it going
monies.
in.
It goes in, we have, oh God, I'm tired. Joyce, the fund? We have a fund for,
Well, we use a liability account.
Yeah.
We record all those expenses.
So all the ins and outs go through that.
those other funds.
Offsetting.
Getting there.
Would be your overlay.
Overlay. That's a,
However, when we recognize the revenue, instead of going to overlay, we recognize the revenue, and revenue offsets those expenses.
Okay.
All right, is everyone okay with the rest of the budget?
I'm good.
Okay, it's just that one item, then
Yep.
we're going to be talking to Tim. And then after Tim makes that correction, are we okay with sending it to the Budget Committee as the corrected value?
the insurance figures are in here, correct, right?
We don't have our estimates yet.
You don't?
So we have to note-
Change on those
So he
lines.
could make a note on there that that's the only thing.
Subject health insurances.
Is that the only thing we're waiting for?
Do we know what the change in the tax rate is projected now, based on this budget? Not with the
Tim
warrant
does.
articles.
He didn't put it in here, but Tim has it
He
figured out.
doesn't say it out loud, but he'll whisper it to you.
Because it's not official.
It won't be official till October.
Impacted.
Right,
Warrant articles and what have you.
what's approved, what's not approved.
The budget is down, and I'm
If
thankful for
everything-
that.
If everything in here was approved,
That's what I asked him, including
What?
typical warrant
Well, our
articles.
budget
What
is
would it be,
down.
and he can give you that.
without
He
the
could do
warrant
that.
articles, and then...
Well, I gave him the
then we
projected
can.
warrant.
So, it's nice to
The only
have that
moneyed ones we
information.
have is the road, isn't it? The only moneyed one we have is the road. Isn't it?
Sidewalk and road fund.
I figured,
Unless we-
I told him approximately 75 for that.
Unless we want to
We
keep
cut out
the other,
milfoil
Thus far.
this year, because we already funded that.
if we're going to talk about warrant articles, we should get Joyce up here.
Because that is on the agenda.
That is on her agenda.
We're not going to put it
Wait a
into the
minute.
recreation
Wait a
fund.
minute.
There's no
That's the only
projects.
funds.
Well, that's what I told him when I asked him, 75,000.
This is probably a good
So
year
if they
to put
approve
money
this
into the
budget-
sidewalk.
We're way behind.
75,000 for warrant articles, what would the tax rate be?
What were you guys doing?
This is an ideal year for
What do you think?
the
Don't
sidewalk.
say it out loud,
Right.
You're supposed to crack the whip.
because it's a
There was no cracking.
very
in
projected
the,
dark figure,
um,
depending on what happens
Heather
with revenue.
and Melanie.
All right, I think it's all set to go with those, with the stipulations that the health insurance is going to,
Property liability goes
Maybe one of us will win the power.
right, those, yep.
I think we should have to buy a ticket.
I may not be here next week.
Remember us.
I got the first two numbers set.
Now, the guy,
My
We'll have a
first
new
two, and then
Pemmy.
nothing after.
the guy assured me, John, that I have the winner right here.
Let's see that number. What numbers you got?
No, no.
Explain to the budget committee that I can get some rough estimates. In fact, I have some estimates now, but they're not complete. But an insurance company, a commercial insurance company is not going to quote a rate 6 months in advance. It has to be a little bit closer.
I would just let them know, this is their first public hearing, right?
No, this is
No public hearing. This is,
Wednesday, coming Wednesday is just a
Right,
meeting.
but their first public hearing is at the end of the month,
27th, right.
and then there'll be a second public hearing.
Yes, that's right.
So if you let them know.
We won't
that
have them by the 2nd either. That's what she's saying.
You're not
because-
going to have those estimates by the second public hearing?
I'll give you what I have, but, I mean, how are they going to quote something 6 months in advance?
I'd buy insurance
Talk
a
to
year at a
MRI?
time.
Sign a contract, you want to sign a contract 6 months in advance?
Did you talk
Don't they
to
know budget cycles and adjust for it?
Primex?
Have we got the numbers from Primex yet?
No.
Well, then we might be okay if Primex comes in with a reasonable number. We just have to wait for the number.
Okay.
We'll
We
have to
have to
have
know
a
in
very
March.
good projected figure.
we have to know it in March.
We need to know for the budget. We have to
Yeah.
have a budget figure in there.
You just put in a worst-case scenario number.
A
It
guesstimate,
doesn't
yeah.
work for me.
A guesstimate.
You'd only be budgeting, if it was more, you'd only be budgeting for 6 months of an increase.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be budgeting.
Or if it's less, even better.
No,
Okay.
we'll get some, I don't know if we'll have it by the public hearing, but definitely by town meeting.
What is Primex?
Pardon me?
What has Primex said?
Fiscal year.
All right, moving right along. Joyce, you're up. We'll get to the budget committee and let them know that that's
Hanging.
hanging and that's the best we could do.
We'll have to, I hate amending the budget.
So Tim, send that out to
Tomorrow,
the budget committee after he
makes the
verifies
correction.
that one number.
Yep. And let them know that property liability and workman's comp and all is subject to change.
These are such low chairs. I feel like a little kid.
I don't know why people put them up there. Do you do that?
They were the ones that were there.
That's okay. All right, here's an easy one.
I didn't move them.
Article 1?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Going right to
oh,
the-
no, I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead,
let's go
Joyce.
right to the warrant.
It doesn't matter, Joyce, you
really
go
doesn't?
with what you're prepared to do.
The easy one was motion to adjourn.
Okay, do you have your copies from last week?
So the one,
Draft one?
Yep.
Yeah,
the 1-7 draft one, yeah.
Now, my notes from that meeting was that we didn't need Article 3, because that's something the housing
Why don't
standards...
you leave it in there for now, because he's frightening me.
Right, because we,
Frightening you?
No, he is.
Oh. Okay,
so let's, yeah,
all right, so
okay.
Pretty scary.
113, 16, leave in for now. Okay, Article 4 is the $35,000 to the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund that Tim shows on the first page of your budget. Article 5, I sent,
Do we want to stay with 35,000? I thought.
That's in the 10-year plan, isn't it?
Is the-
highway equipment, yeah, he
that's it.
seems to think that's enough.
Yeah, the equipment.
It has been enough in the past.
Okay,
So we just put a big,
I hope this isn't like the fire district. As soon as they get enough money,
Well, we
they
just
won't
got
buy
the
any
chipper
truck.
given to us, so
Save up the money until we have enough
that's not
money.
a
and then
purchase,
we
about
get
the
new
steamer.
Well, if the old truck is
We
still
should think
functional, I don't
about,
see
we should
why we
think
get
about
them.
buying a sweeper
Hold on
attachment.
until you
Oh,
reach the
yeah.
point that the repairs are now
We
cost
have.
prohibitive.
Yeah, we have. Look at the 10-year plan.
okay, Article 5 is the roads, well, it's been being called Roads, Streets, Bridges Capital Reserve Fund, but in doing some research, in 2005, 2006, and 2007, it's always been referred to something else. They've either left out bridges or completely. So Article 5 is proposing, this I'm recommending to the board, and that's why it's double-spaced, so that you can change it, to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the existing, and now I'm using the language of Article 5, when, 2005, when it was originally created, which was reconstruction and/or repair of town roads, streets, and bridges. That was the original intent and purpose. In 2007, they amended it to make the selectmen the agents, but when they amended it to make the selectmen agents, they changed the name again. That's when they left out the word bridges.
Bridges or streets?
Bridges.
I'm sorry, streets. Well, it's confusing. One they left out bridges, and the other one they left out streets. So now we're into 2016, so what we're recommending is, going back to the original 2005 one, this is why it's not a good practice to take amendments from the floor. And when you do amendments from the floor, you really need to take your time and make sure that they're worded properly. That the board would want to rename it Town Roads, delete the word streets, bridges, and adding the word sidewalks. So it'd be the Town Roads, Bridges, and Sidewalks Capital Reserve Fund. And then for the purpose of, I added the word construction, because when you go back and read the original intent was just to do repaving of existing roads. It didn't talk anything about, make any reference to constructing, of taking any dirt roads and turning dirt roads into paved roads. It was just to resurface.
Well, reconstruct is to rebuild.
Okay, so just reconstruct?
Well, you have,
We
for the
already have-
purpose of construction, reconstruction, and/or repair town roads. I think that those three kind of cover everything.
Construction, reconstruction, and/or repair.
You're the paving expert, Peter. Would that cover everything that you were going to do to a road?
Well, I deal in the black concrete, you're the white concrete queen, but I would
Well-
say, yeah.
Well, that
We're either
would
gonna
be-
construct it, reconstruct it, or
Repair it.
There you go.
So,
We just heard from the
Same way
expert.
with the bridge.
So you want to leave all
don't
three
look from
words
the
in there?
underside.
I would.
I hear
Okay.
it
It
staring.
kind of covers it, doesn't it?
I walk the culvert.
So this is okay like this?
High Street.
Totally. Is that okay with the board? And then,
Everybody, let's, is this okay with the board,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
the way it is, okay?
So what I did is I sent this wording to the Municipal Association, Legal Inquiries, to ask them, my question is, will this require a two-thirds majority vote or just a simple majority vote?
And they said,
Oh, they haven't
nothing
responded.
yet. I saw your email.
Yeah, normally, they would say send it to DRA, which we will anyway, but DRA will not accept anything through their website portal until you've got budget numbers to submit. And we don't have any yet.
Okay.
That'll teach us.
All right, Article 6 is the appropriating the 65,000.
I think we should go up. Because we
65 is the standard amount that
Yeah.
we've been putting in there.
That's about equivalent to what we get in highway fund revenue. Well, a
Block
little
grant.
more than highway fund revenue.
Previously, that did contain the sidewalk work that we didn't do.
It did not.
No, it did
No, we've
not.
always put sidewalk in the budget.
We've never done sidewalks, John.
Well,
And since
It's always
it's-
been
I
put
know,
on
but
hold.
the 65 was supposed to go to sidewalks.
No,
No,
no, just
roads and bridges.
roads and bridges.
Oh, I see.
Right, I'm
And we're
Because
adding-
I see, because we're adding sidewalks at
That's
this
right.
point.
That's
why.
correct.
So to
Right.
add the sidewalks, I would say 12, 14,000.
Go to Article 7, John.
Well, see, wait a minute.
That puts $20,000 into that fund for sidewalks.
No, that goes in the
No.
revaluation.
That's the revaluation.
We have
Then
monies,
shut my mouth.
we have monies in the budget line that says sidewalks.
Right.
If this passes, then we have to
Delete the one,
delete the one.
minus
in
it from the budget. Correct.
Or, yeah, I would delete the one in the budget.
Right.
And then, so you have to consider, you've got an $11,000 value for that sidewalk there.
I would go
You've
20,000
got,
here,
how much on this sidewalk around Town Hall?
25.
25. So that's $36,000 just to do those two sidewalks
this year.
this year.
Of course,
Nothing else.
that's,
That's not Winter Street, that's not
yeah, and it's.
any
basically-
repairs that are gonna have to be done to
You're
Church Street.
reconstructing as opposed to trying to do some repairs.
You
to
gotta
fix it.
start somewhere, though.
Well, if we could get, this is a liability. This is a known
All
liability.
are.
Well, and it's like.
Yeah, you're right, they all are.
Riverfronts, what's the percent of traffic there versus some of the others?
What do we think of for numbers?
It's not a priority, but
Heading to
even
the high
so.
school. Well,
I'm just, you know what, we've had accidents
We
here.
have 20
I know.
Right, yeah, no,
Right out
I'm
in
talking
front.
over.
sidewalks.
We have 20 for sidewalks.
But I'm
So-
putting a value
We
on
do
it.
both
11
of
for
these.
that.
You're looking at
Priority, I
35.
think.
We'll prioritize later.
So we have to add an
How much do we put
additional-
in?
35.
35.
Because you're going to eliminate, if this passes.
Then we'll
you
take it
will-
out of the budget.
You will vote to remove.
I think it would
Sidewalk
confuse
from the budget.
It would confuse the general public, John, if you say, I would like to add, 16,000 add here, and so it's now 81,000 here to include sidewalks. And then when they look in our budget, we have 20,000. Oh, we wanted that in conjunction with this to do School Street and Mill Street.
I'm looking at the bottom line that
Yep.
we'll be spending. So that bottom line of spending of the
6,000,
36,000
right.
includes removing the 20,000.
That, That's
Right.
So
correct.
we're actually, comes out that we're actually spending additional 16,000.
In theory, yes.
If we put
There, yeah.
36 in
Online.
this warrant article, we're increasing this current budget by $16,000.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was
You're
saying,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So instead of 65, you're going to
add 36 to it.
At 36.
36,000.
And we're planning on knocking
Well,
off,
you're going to be adding
changing,
$100,000.
101.
101, do the math.
Ouch.
can I make that motion to remove that 20?
I still
I had it too, so-
Oh,
had
you
35.
can't do
We
No, I
don't
mean,
have
Oh,
a-
at the town meeting.
At the town meeting, yeah, absolutely. But
Will
just
satisfy my needs.
to be clear now, the intent on this is we're adding $36,000 specifically because we have this year two specified areas and have estimates on those specified areas of $36,000 for School Street and the Mill Street project. If this passes to put the $101,000 into the Town Roads, Bridges, and Sidewalks Capital Reserve Fund, we will make a motion to remove $20,000 from the sidewalks in the budget.
Whoever brings Article
Operating.
6 to the floor needs to explain that
Yep,
whole process.
right.
To be consistent, then should we increase the 20,000 in the budget to 36,000? Because wouldn't they say, well, why do you want to increase this by 36,
It's a good point.
but you're only
I think-
putting
I think-
20,000 in the budget?
And that way we
Because
have
we
the,
decided to do more sidewalk than we had planned.
if this article gets amended to go back to 65,000, we'll still have the 36,000 to do the sidewalk.
No, you'd only have 20,000.
You'd only have 20.
No, we're talking about increasing the line in the budget.
If you increase the line
Yeah,
item.
Right,
that would
right.
make sense.
I'm just saying that our townspeople are very smart people, and they're going to look at this and go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, because you only want 20,000 here. Okay, we're only going to give you 20,000 there.
I
Smart
think that's a
people.
great idea.
All right, so how many are in favor of changing the line item of sidewalks under highway to 36,000 instead of 20?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that's unanimous, all five of us are okay with changing that to
We could all agree.
highway to 36, so we'll also tell Tim that that is a correction tomorrow. All right,
And
then,
6, you're going to keep at
in
101.
Article 6, we'll keep it 101,000.
Yep.
And what you can do, or what I suggest maybe, is explain to the people, you can have your motion already,
Yes.
so that when you get to the budget article,
It's got to be written out, so yeah.
Yeah.
already, you can say, okay, we're handing this now to the moderator, so that when we get to the budget article, that this motion is to amend that bottom line downward
Could
by
you,
36,000.
could you type that out for us for town meeting?
Because they'll probably want to see that.
Here's our promise.
Well, why would they want to see that? Because all we're doing is changing the name.
Well, they don't,
So it's not
you know,
going to be a big deal. We can explain it, but it's,
Well,
quite
the
frankly,
36,000
once
is going to
we
be a
tell
big
them
deal.
that that's what we intend to do, usually what happens is when we get to the budget, somebody jumps up on the floor before we can to remove it. Because anybody can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm
So-
just
Have it
thinking that
written.
wouldn't
But we'll have
Chuck
it written
say-
down.
Wouldn't Chuck say, well,
Yeah.
no, you have to wait to do that until we do that article?
That's what I'm saying. When the budget comes up, they will, somebody
Okay.
usually jumps right up because they
We'll have a
know.
prepared
But
motion
we'll
for
also
that.
have it prepared
Yeah.
Right.
in case they don't.
And also, that protects you. Say someone says, no, we don't want to add sidewalks, or you don't get the two-thirds vote. You've still got your money in the budget to do your
That's right.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
But this time, we better do the sidewalks. Every year I complain about this time he better do those sidewalks.
Well, isn't it too bad we didn't instruct them to do them?
Now, in
we
the
will.
town report, did you want to put in the town report an updated capital improvements plan? Or at least the portion
I think we
showing
should wait and ask the
2016?
highway director, because I don't know if he's had an opportunity to look at that and really study it. I know he's glanced over
Well,
it.
he's been preparing, he's set up, every
Right,
week.
but I don't know how thoroughly he's looked at that, because there's sidewalks that haven't been done, roads that weren't done. So we should ask him,
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
yes. Yes. See what he's got anyway.
You'll know it by a town meeting if someone says, okay, what roads are you doing
He should
this
have it
year?
with him.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, their town meeting is later, because they're
there May.
in May. Did they vote to switch that?
I thought they did.
Yeah. Didn't they last year vote to switch that back?
Hey,
When they
we have
went
to
to a
go back.
five-person board.
That failed.
That's a good point, though. What if he's not here for our town meeting?
Then one of us will have to have, we'll just have to have the
Isn't-
information.
Isn't
Yeah.
their town meeting some evening?
Oh, right, they do it all in one night, I think, you're right.
It's like a Thursday evening or something?
Well, we'll have the
We'll ask
information
him.
one way or the
Total
other.
information to ask.
Okay, and then the 20,000 for the reval.
Yes.
And, this would be the shortest town meeting ever in the history of the town if this is all it is.
When we had the discussion with the New Hampshire DOT the other day about taking away sidewalks from downtown,
I was going to ask about that.
and they want to take the sidewalk and, they want to take the parking space, there's 2 parking spaces right out here in the front. They want to take the furthest one away from us, the one closest to the crosswalk away, because of line of sight. Of course, we said no. The crosswalk, further down, haircuts for men, the parallel parking, one, they want to take that away. There may be an alternate to that, and that would be, instead of the crosswalk being on the corner where the pole is, have the crosswalk be on the opposite side of Tryon. However, after looking at that, it goes right into Ideal Hall where there's a parking space, so we would lose a parking space on the opposite side of the street, if that were to be the case, where they move the sidewalk. So we'll have to fight for that to remain the same. We really went into a heavy discussion, very heavy discussion, removing the sidewalk altogether from in front of Tilton House of Pizza. On the crosswalk, I'm sorry, the crosswalk. Thank you. And they do not want it at all. And after a very lengthy discussion, the alternative to that was a push-button light kind of thing, which is $20,000. Push the light, blinks, and it says somebody's crossing the road.
I didn't bring it up at the meeting, but I wonder if they have the authority to say no.
They only have authority to remove the crosswalk from their section of Route 3. So if we paint the crosswalk back in, what are they going to do? Come out and paint out the middle?
Now, will they, bring down the DOT police on us?
Well, then we should bring up the Tilton Municipal Police. I don't know. It's a...
We actually have guns. I don't know if they have guns.
We have big...
And according to today's paper, we have more officers per capita, so we're good.
Don't say that.
I will.
So,
just
here's
to
the
get a
issue.
rise out of her.
The parking spaces are in our land, our territory. They have no jurisdiction, I don't know why, from the curb out. So that's redundant. No, we're going to keep our parking spaces on our land, our territory. And it's like I said with the crosswalk. We're going to paint it back in. Are they going to come and paint it back out? We'll paint it back in. You have a crosswalk I mean, I'm surprised that
Is that the song?
the asphalt isn't trodden from the number of people that utilize that
Right.
crosswalk. It's the only thing, when you're a motor vehicle driver, it's the only thing that warns you that there's pedestrians in the road.
So-
And that, they didn't like that either, as Pat said.
Right.
They said, well, then, you need to put in a $20,000 light.
No matter what we do,
Yeah, we'll take
if
it
we
under
remove
advisement.
the crosswalk, people are going to be walking across the street wherever they feel. This kind of herds them into one spot where there's a marking on the road where they'll be most likely seen. So I
That's what we were saying.
stand by.
That's what we said, but their retort was that crosswalks give pedestrians a false sense of security. And some pedestrians feel like if they're in the crosswalk, they can like text or do whatever and not pay any attention, which isn't true. You step out into traffic, you better be paying attention.
Darwinism.
There you go. And well, that works for me too. Call the herd.
So the question is,
The
for
question,
us, do we want to keep all of our parking spaces?
Yes?
yes,
And all of our crosswalks?
Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
Are
Peter,
are we going to fight them on this,
yes.
or, okay,
Just
If it
paint
comes
them
to
back
if it
in.
comes to a fight, we'll just paint it back on.
Just paint them back in.
The one out
they
here.
don't want that either.
Well, I think that's the most dangerous one. I think that one.
That's what I said, but they didn't
Onto the
focus on that.
monument?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, God,
You
I've almost been
cross those
whacked.
lanes, and you stand at the monument, you're safe. You've reached a safe zone.
If you make it to the monument.
And then you go across the rest of the way. Yeah, but the same traffic that comes there comes here at this crosswalk.
The issue, the issue is they were not willing to back down.
No.
And so it is going to be a fight. So if you're going to fight them, fine. If not, now's the time to put it in as a warrant to get a blink or whatever it is up there.
I
If we
see,
don't
Madam.
want to do that, if that's what the board decides as a board, that we don't want to do that, then we'll just fight.
Out of Mr. Lambert's mouth came the words, maybe it would be okay. He didn't say that if you put up a light, you're good to go. He didn't
No.
say that.
But, and here's the thing, he talked about how dark it was through there at night, and it is. So maybe when we're looking at our streetlights, maybe that's a location
We need
on the
another
other
light.
side to have a high-powered streetlight
Instead of Belmont?
instead of Belmont. I'm saying
Pull it
it.
down and...
Well, how,
Yeah, we'll grab that
well, in
one
the
and bring it
summer,
back.
they have the pedestal, the thing that says pedestrian.
Right, that's right.
But that's only during the 9
Right.
months out of the year. They
Right.
don't keep one in the wintertime?
No,
Oh, hell, the plow would take care of that for us. That'd end up in,
we'd be buying them every week.
who knows? Probably the
What
river.
about if those nice orange diamond signs that showing the pedestrian crossing?
I think a light. I think if we at least had a street light over it, that would help. The bottom line is,
On the
they aren't
corner.
even gonna, for them, there's a liability issue. And they're not even gonna consider letting us keep that crosswalk without some sort of light that flashes. He estimated 25,000, but remember Ernie's?
101?
Yeah. And they
Plus, you have
estimated
to pay for the
50,000.
electricity.
Of course, what he's suggesting is a different type of light, but his
Upkeep.
25,000
One now.
is buy the parts and we erect it. So it doesn't even cover the cost of installation. So you're really looking at probably a $35,000,
But we could
$40,000
very well
light.
have a street light there on the corner, right, where there's enough land there in between the parking lot and there's where the, way up at the corner before, when you enter into the parking lot, there's probably maybe 5 feet or so, right there. That could be an ideal street light. Me personally, I'd rather fight it.
Is the crosswalk that goes to the island in question too?
No,
I don't think
That
he
is
had
not.
time to get
they
there.
never even mentioned
That
it.
doesn't have a light.
They never even mentioned it.
Nope.
And
Because it has a
between
clearer sight of travel. It's the distance between the stoplight in the distance between to the crosswalk, that you have cars built up, 50,000 in a day, that you have them piling up down there and people walking in between the cars to get
Stop
there.
cars.
Right. And it almost happened to him, that's why it's
Yeah.
happening.
Crosswalk directly out in front here that goes to the island and hops over to Big Apple. Are there any in between here and the island one?
No.
No,
Just companies.
If we were to go and put one in up the street further, more like directly across the street from Onions,
and over?
and sacrifice this one, would that please him?
Nope.
There was a study done on the West Coast, I can't remember if it was Washington State or California, and it was done a number of years ago. And that study indicated the statement that I made the other day to them, because I'd heard it from him a million times. Crosswalks give pedestrians a false sense of security, therefore they are not safe.
Why can't,
I asked him for a
why can't he put
crosswalk
it there?
from Winter Street to Riverfront Park a number of years ago, and we all know what happens
Right,
there.
right.
There's a herd of people that cross
That just
like
cross.
a 30-foot swath, and he would not,
But you notice,
because it gives people a false sense of security. He doesn't want new crosswalks, he wants to eliminate crosswalks.
And if we were
Unless you
trying to
have-
put one in, Catherine, I would say we didn't have a leg to stand on, but that crosswalk had been there for how long?
Well, that's
Lot
right,
of
that's
years.
the thing, we're already directing
say it's
people there.
prescriptive.
So unless you have one
I
of
like
the
that.
push button, stop the traffic lights, like they wanted at Ernie's,
Well,
don't want to
consensus,
consider
I
new
guess.
crosswalks.
We want,
you know, as Pat Constantino, a taxpayer, I say to the Board of Selectmen, go out and fight it, because I believe it's prescriptive. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people go down and have drawn a path to there, and it's already outlined. But me as a Board of Selectmen, a part of the Board of Selectmen, you know, we really want to take on New Hampshire DOT.
Yep.
On this fight. I have other fights that are
Yep.
much bigger, but
Yep.
you do, okay.
I do.
All right.
And I think
I would
Joyce's
like to start
idea,
out doing it
I
anyway.
think,
Get the gloves ready, I'm ready.
I think Joyce's idea of getting pedestrian crossing signs, we could get retroreflective ones, and both sides of that, and put those up. I think anything we could do.
Can we get as many as they were planning for the trail? And
Yeah, maybe they've got some over there we could buy off of them in storage.
A monument, right? Oh, here,
Yeah.
let me see, where are we? Here, church.
Is that what that means?
I was just telling Gail that I've seen now that
Church.
solar,
One way.
reflective pedestrian signs. And
What is
it'd be a lot
that?
cheaper than,
That's their logos.
and then solar.
Yeah?
Service road.
they're probably going to want
Fire
DOT
station?
approved, it's all at certain heights and everything else. I think just tell them whatever and we'll paint the lines
What was
on
your
it.
suggestion?
Yeah, remember, it's our side,
Right?
remember, it's our side of the street,
I
though.
saw some down in Madison, so there's solar powered,
Yeah,
that should say this is a pedestrian sign.
I've seen them down in Fitchburg.
Yeah, I saw them down in Luton, actually.
Yep.
Woburn.
Massachusetts is moving further north.
And
Right.
so, but I imagine they would be a lot less than hardwiring.
Jane, are there any in Tewksbury?
A flashing pole. There's just a lot of new technology out there.
Right, I agree.
Downstairs and find out.
All right, so we're
Oh, I
gonna,
just saw it.
so the articles remain the same, we're not gonna do anything with them. Good, all right. You can keep that, that's New
Okay,
Hampshire DOT.
I'll keep it with the sidewalks,
Yep.
crosswalks. Okay, yeah, I was
That's
wondering,
from them.
so what is your next step then? What do you have to do?
He's gonna get back to us, I guess, and then we told him we weren't gonna bend on it. Well, they're doing the same thing to Tilton School. They're saying that the bottom two are not,
Yep, and
they're not doing the crosswalk because it's not ADA compatible, where the retaining wall is, because it goes into the stairs. Well, that's a battle.
Can we just, which the chief suggested,
Yep.
On this site, their estimate for those flashing pedestrian signs, $1,240 to $2,755.
Well, that's a
For the
much
solar
better,
ones?
Yeah,
it's a much better,
it's a lot cheaper than 25.
Where do you find that?
Solar traffic
She's our
systems.
Google queen now.
Solar traffic systems.
All right,
So we're done,
next.
good, I wondered about that.
See?
Next.
technology is a wonderful
Oh,
thing.
yeah, that would be perfect.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so what's next?
This is an easy one. I just wanted to follow up on this. We're all set with this Manning tree removal. Has anybody notified this person?
I thought you were.
Joyce and I were. I've dropped the ball on it.
Okay, so that'll be tomorrow?
Lagoon, right?
Yeah.
You said Manning.
I was gonna say, what do we
Oh,
talk
Manning
about?
Road
Yeah.
trees.
Manville.
Manville.
Manville Road. It's, right.
I knew that didn't look right.
Okay, we're good now.
Okay, so, Catherine, do you want to call him, or I'll call him? It's up to you. One of us needs to call him.
If you could call them, that'd
I
be
will
great.
call him.
I've got
Gail,
some-
I'm calling him tomorrow morning.
It's got to be done in February.
Has to be done in February. Okay. And can I send notes to all these other people saying thank you for your time in submitting this, and we awarded it
Except for the
to,
$40,000 ones, they don't.
Yeah, they count too.
Of course they do. Thank you for your interest.
3.5 times, huh? Yeah.
Well, we might
while we're on
have
trees,
needs for these people in
I
the future, who knows?
I sent the,
Cranes and whatever.
I sent the letter and the draft RFP to Northfield, and Glenn said he would present it to his board last night, which he did, and he said that, he called me back, and he said the board discussed it last night, and they would like to hold off on the RFP process right now. They asked Andy, who's their Director of Public Works, to meet with Johnny and to make a recommendation to them on exactly what needs to be done and report back to the boards.
They're not arborists. How can we have a highway department report back on what needs to be done as far as tree work? I don't get that. And I'm not, with no disrespect to the town of Northfield, we had a similar situation 3 years ago where they said, can we hold off and let the two highway departments, kind of talk it over and work it out? And then one of the branches almost came down. Remember that one? It was one of the ones that were wired up, and Mr. Duggan, is it Dugan or Duggan? Very nicely said he would volunteer his services to take that branch down.
Durgan.
And we were thankful for that, and then they didn't even want that to happen for nothing. So for us to wait on this, there are trees over there on the island that are liabilities. They're dead, gone, and they're gonna come down on somebody. And they have, Sunday night, there's 200 or 300 people over there.
And we have absolutely zero authority to do it on our own volition.
Yeah, if we want to
That's not
spend,
true. That's not true. We
We
can.
own it together, right?
I know we do, but we can do, they've given us permission before in the past to
Well,
do
if we
it.
can get permission, but they're
Right.
saying in lieu of that, they want their public works guy to go, right?
Well, the Public Works, in my opinion, is not a qualified person to go
not a
over
tree
there.
expert.
Arborist?
Not, they're not gonna, I can't trust that Johnny is gonna go over there and identify which trees need to be come down and which trees need to be just trimmed. I
what
don't,
needs to be done to maintain the health of the trees?
exactly.
So we suggest to Northfield that we contract an arborist to work in conjunction with the Public Works directors and express to them our concerns about what does Andy know, what does Johnny know about the health of trees and how to protect the island.
It's exactly what I'm trying to explain to Joyce.
Okay. Well, I wasn't getting it.
All
So
right.
there you go.
Joyce was getting
The
it.
only thing I did is I did send Johnny an email, which I believe I had sent him the original proposal anyway, just to give him a heads up that the board was talking about this tonight and that be prepared for, Andy will be contacting him, and this is what he's contacting you about. So,
I am not in favor of a highway going over there to make a decision on which trees are coming down, which trees are to be trimmed, and the welfare and health of those trees over at the island. I don't think that they're qualified. Now, for instance, if Paul Rushlow were to assist them, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Well, the problem is, though, anybody can tell you which trees they think should come down. How are they going to get them down? Those guys aren't tree climbers.
Oh, they wouldn't be removing them. They just, my sense is they wanted to get their Public Works Director involved and get the information and get back to them in terms of, okay, how many trees are there? How many trees have limbs hanging down?
Well, so here's the question. So they want him to go look, as well as experts that will go look for free and give us an estimate. So,
They should all go together.
well,
Have
here's
our
the
guy,
thing.
their
Can
guy,
we,
and the tree guy look and
Right.
see what we can
That's
do.
what I don't understand, because that's all we're doing is doing an RFP.
That's my point.
right.
People that do this type of work and can make recommendations on
You
it.
didn't get it from either
So
of us.
why don't
There
we
you
write
go.
them back a letter saying, okay, thank you. In conjunction with that, we'll be sending out this RFP. If there's any changes you'd like to make to it, let us know, because we'd like to send it out by, what, Wednesday next week?
Sure.
And then they can review it when it comes back in, see if there's anything they disagree with.
Yep.
And
At least we'll move
and they'll
forward.
get, and we'll provide copies of the responses to them.
That's right. What do you think?
What did you just say?
That will say thank you when, in conjunction with their DPW fellow going over there and looking, we'll send these RFP outs and get some expert arborists out there to also look at the trees. And is there any changes or alterations they'd like to make to the RFP before we send it out next week?
And we're requesting to pay for half the arborist? Or
Well,
we're
we haven't
gonna pay
gotten
for
there
it?
yet.
Yeah, we
'cause
haven't
this
gotten there.
part
Right
doesn't
now,
cost anything.
we're just doing the
Just getting
legwork.
estimates.
Okay.
Now, they won't meet again until next Tuesday, so
We can't wait until we can't wait another week, because we might have to alter the budget for this.
Well,
Maybe not, but maybe so.
well, if we mail them out Wednesday,
Yeah.
I mean, I can get the envelopes all prepared, and
Right,
that's the
but
hard part, is getting all that done, and then
Okay.
if they have anything to add,
then maybe we shouldn't ask them for changes, just say, thank you
yep.
for, that suggestion.
And then-
And in conjunction with that, we'll notify some arborists to
Yep.
take a look as well, so we can compare. How does that?
Yep.
And it seems to me that if they balk at this, we might mention the bridge and the lack of the maintenance and the girl going through the bridge and stuff. It's like lack of maintenance on that island, lack of maintenance on those trees.
That's a good point.
It could result in a death if one of those trees or limbs come down that are obviously dead. But there's so many others that, unless you really know.
All right.
All right, we off the trees?
I'll send you the draft, and you can...
We're out of the trees.
No, not yet. Soon.
Oh, I don't think it needs any playing with what you've written is perfect.
Okay.
What did we decide?
To send a letter to the Northfield, thanking them for the suggestion of sending their Public Works Director out, and in conjunction with that, we'll send our RFP out to expert arborists for their opinions.
Wonderful. All right, moving right along.
The solar flashing pedestrian sign, you can also get it with an audible warning.
Hey, there's a car coming.
You're about to be run over, is that what it tells you?
Watch out!
Run.
Hey, you, get out of the way.
Catherine, you had sent
I want your
out,
pizza.
sent an email today, as a matter of fact. So what are we going to do about Mr. Kamadamatraki and his appeal to DES? What do you want to do?
Immediately after the meeting, on the way home, Pat sent me the number. I called George up, talked to him. He said he had already sent in his appeal, and he was asking for us to send a letter agreeing with his appeal. I explained to him about the other
Supporting
things
his
in it.
appeal?
Supporting his appeal and agreeing to the conditions of his appeal.
Have we seen said appeal?
You have a
This was
copy?
scanned to all
And
of you.
I asked for,
It's in the drive?
I did tell him that it would be a good idea for him to put together all the letters and the appeal and the information he has on the laws on the appeal and drop it off at Town Hall, which he did promptly the next morning. And that we'd look at it, because we can't just send a letter out without it.
If we're going to respond to this and send a letter to DES, I think the point that John made earlier, when Scott was here, about the EPA violations, that we should talk about that in this appeal letter, this support of his, if he doesn't talk about them in there, because it seems to me that's the only thread that they will consider.
That it shows something's going on already.
There's numerous violations already.
Okay.
And when does he need this letter? Within 30 days? We have 30 days, you said. He
We
said,
need to do something quick.
George said that we had 30 days. I didn't understand how that worked, and I asked him to, he said he would provide the information that shows that once he files his appeal, the appeal is open for 30 days. That's what he said.
So it's open for like a public comment?
I said, send the information you got on it over, because it was pretty wound up.
okay,
He also would like to meet with the selectmen at some point, and I told him to contact
I haven't read
Gail
it yet.
and schedule something if he wishes to.
Before it ends? I mean, that's like an hour. But, I mean, before the appeal is up or after?
I said anytime he wants to, he can come down and, set up a time. I said, we're pretty busy, and
Okay.
he promised he wouldn't just walk in on a meeting without setting an appointment. How busy we are,
Okay.
so.
The next thing is the Best Way Casella was the only bidder on our MSW and curbside recycling. It expires in May, so we met with them, and so I think the next step is to actually sit down and do a contract. Now, the contract that we've been using, God, for 20 years, was the one that was originally written by co-op members. And we've just kept, changing the dates on it each year. So if the board wants to change or use a different contract, I know Tim is really busy right now, as are we all. Do you want to work off the existing contract?
Why are we just accepting a bid and not playing let's make a deal for a bit?
Well, that will be the next,
Because our option would be to have a warrant article to do away with curbside pickup at all.
What?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
That is an option.
Yeah, it is an option. So I am certain that they will negotiate somewhat anyway. And I would think that if Tim gives them a call, they would be real amenable to talking about it. Now, I know he's busy right now, but this is a very important thing.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and somebody needs to talk to them. If not Tim, then somebody needs to talk to them. Because to just accept their proposal as presented is poor practice, I do believe.
well, and also there are other things in that contract, and, which I had sent this out earlier in the week, and I apologize, Peter, I don't know, I must have picked up an older Board of Selectmen's email address because it went to Al, so that's why you got your own personal copy. one of the things that special,
She's telling me something.
Special.
that they're starting to do, and I've had 2 conversations with them, and I said, no, Dave, we can't do that, we have a flow control ordinance. So,
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure
Archie
that,
knows.
so I'm sure that he will be bringing that up to you again in part of your negotiations.
That doesn't look very good.
Huh?
We have that one and that one. Doesn't look too healthy.
What's the matter?
Johanna.
Oh, she's sick.
Well, Joanna just came in.
Yeah, she's sick. Poor girl.
So anyway, this is twice now where he's called and they've said they couldn't take it down to the incinerator. So, and I know that he wants to talk to the board about doing it, and I said, well, that's the board's decision, but I'm telling you right now.
They have to do that. There has to be a part of that.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to move from that position, that if the ordinance says they have to bring it to the incinerator, they have to bring it to the
Well,
incinerator.
the ordinance says that they have to bring it where you say it has to go.
And that's to the incinerator.
You say, yeah, it has to go to the incinerator.
So, okay, so
They're
we'll
not going to get our garbage to dump there over our aquifer.
To transfer.
It's ironic.
is that where they brought it?
Yeah.
The one day they did, they had to bring it back there,
To 140.
to 140.
They left it in a truck, I trust.
Nope.
Yes, they don't accept
transferred it.
MSW there.
They don't, they're not able to yet. They have some things they gotta do, but they're not bringing my
But
garbage.
these other ones, the day it was closed, he told the trucks, just go to Allenstown, wherever it is they take it.
Well,
They do have a transfer station in Allenstown.
Yeah, if there's an emergency, extingent?
Extenuating
Well,
circumstances?
yeah, but I'm looking for the extingent word. Extenuating circumstances, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, but
Incinerator is closed. What do you
One
do?
of the instances where they didn't like sitting in line waiting,
Yeah, well, that's on them.
that's on them.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
on,
there's
Right.
certain times of the year where, you gotta wait.
I understand that.
So, I think when he was saying that, oh, this is happening all the time and it's gonna get worse, that was
No.
not confirmed by further research.
I talked with Jim Pressure in person after receiving your email, and he goes, not that I know of, they did have the fire at the, but that was like, that's certainly the exception as opposed to the rule.
Okay. So, next time he calls,
Bye, Judy.
I'll say, too bad.
Yeah,
Kinda, yeah.
yeah, because, I mean, we can't,
If they cannot
do
bring
that.
our trash where we direct them to bring it, then,
They're not worthy of our contract.
what she said.
And we can just say, every man for himself with the garbage.
Listen.
If you think that recycling was a
Can't-
problem for garbage dumping,
We, as selectmen, cannot sign a contract with somebody knowing they blatantly defy our, where to send it to.
So when we sign this contract with them, it needs to state in there where our trash would be delivered.
I think it does now. It's defined as where we direct it to be delivered,
Yeah.
I believe. Because we might change our mind somewhere down the line, but not within this
The language needs to be in the
contract
contract.
anyway.
All right, so that's pretty clear.
Okay, so
Word
anyway,
is
so,
spoken.
right now, Tim's working on the phone installation. That's eating
Yeah.
up a lot of his time. So, once that settles down, then have him meet with Dave and start fleshing out some things. And then, I mean, both Tim and I can do that, and then we'll come back to the board, similar to like when we do the negotiations. Okay, so that's clear. And the other thing that we're finding, this one instance that I'm aware of, I've got to go back through and look at our road list to find out which private roads have been being picked up. If the private road is such that the refuse truck can get in there with no problem, then best way, they've always accommodated it. But now there's one that they're saying they can't accommodate, their truck can't get in there. So they're no longer going to be picking up
Where?
Murphy Lane.
Is that the one where they have to back way
It's off
up?
of Route
the-
3, just before the causeway on the right as you're heading east.
There's
what's the name of
two,
it?
Murphy Lane,
It's a dead end.
before the roadway in on the right.
there's 2 year-round
where
residents,
it
and
is,
the rest are all summer residents.
Oh, yeah, I know where it is.
They're elderly people, handicapped people.
They've been getting in there, haven't they?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what's the problem now?
And
It's often not plowed. I've driven in there with my truck, and sometimes that's hard to...
Well, if they're not,
they
if the
gave them
road
no
isn't
notice.
maintained,
And they
I'd have
gave
to
them no
back up.
notice either.
no, that's wrong.
But they are, the summer residents are elderly as well. However, the full-time residents that live there are elderly people.
They have to maintain the road so the trucks
So
can
the
pass.
trucks can get in, they can safely get in. Because technically, and I'll double check in the contracts, because all these contracts are the same for all the co-op communities, that if a truck can service a private road and get in there, they will. But technically, they're not supposed to be providing municipal services on a private road.
And the problem
We
with
can only
Murphy,
guarantee on our roads.
Don't
with
turn
Murphy
around.
Lane, they can't turn around. So if they drive in, they gotta back out, or if they must back in.
They must
Back
back
out
in.
Just
on
like the
Route 3.
one over in the tree
Back in.
district. Do they have one where you have to back up this alley thing? I watched them do it. And they did it.
So that's something else that we'd have to have clarified in the contract.
Why, I know about that one because I got called on it. They're trying to look for people right now because they cannot pick up the bag to put it, they can't even pick the bag up to put it in their car to come to the dump. They know once they get to the dump, they'll have assistance taking it out, but they can't even get the bag into their vehicle.
Catherine,
It's your phone.
Oh, is it? I thought I turned it down.
So,
But we really don't have any obligation to provide municipal services on a private road. That we have, if they could, they would try and accommodate.
but you've accommodated them for how long?
Oh, I have no idea.
How long have we been doing Murphy Lane, and then all of a sudden they stopped doing Murphy Lane
Well, they
with no
stopped because it
notice or
wasn't-
anything?
Well, it wasn't plowed, so they didn't go in, and I called
Wasn't plowed, when was it?
2 weeks ago. That's Tuesday snowstorm that we had, 2 weeks ago. Because Linda had called,
It's
and I said,
their
okay,
turn,
let me
yeah.
call. And so I called their, you can't even speak to the local one here in Belmont. You get the customer care center up in Vermont. I gave him the information, and he said, okay, he would call the driver. And then I had spoken with Johnny, and Johnny had said that the truck couldn't, that I don't know when it was, but the truck couldn't get down there. There had been some damage done to the truck, and they told him that they wouldn't be able to go down there anymore.
So why isn't people letting the residents that have had this service for a while now, why isn't anyone letting them know?
That, I can't answer, I don't know.
So they're in their 80s, handicapped, and nobody's letting them know that nobody can pick their garbage up. That's unconscionable in my book.
Well, she called and told me part about it. You know, why it hadn't been picked up.
You're not getting my point.
No, I understand. I understand. But if they can't get their truck down there, yeah, they should have notified them that.
Well, how are we supposed to
Johnny
do this?
must,
How are they gonna notify them?
How did we find out?
They contact Town Hall, and Town Hall notifies them.
Well, then that would work, right?
Right.
But we don't have a process in place.
They waited until they called Town Hall to complain because nobody picked up their garbage. That's how they found out.
Well, this is neighbor helping neighbor.
They don't have, if they had neighbors, they wouldn't have an issue with it. Both neighbors are in their 80s and handicapped. So they're looking for someone that would stop in and just put it in their vehicle, so once a week they could go down to the dump. So,
next subject, presidential primary election preparation. Do you want to talk about that? Fill the board in on what we did?
Chuck and Kathy Mitchell, Joyce and I met with Rob Berry, who's a new facilities director at the high school, and he was extremely accommodating. It was so nice. we primarily discussed parking, especially the handicap issue. So he has made a suggestion to utilize the area that services the kitchen, which they didn't want us to use the last time because they were concerned about deliveries. So what he's going to do is put handicap spaces there. And handicap spaces at the end, there's already one at the end. As you come in from Route 3, that section
On the left there.
on the right as you drive in. So he'll make, so what did he end up with, 5 handicap
yeah.
spaces? And then we'll have a handicap drop-off point in front of the main door. The back door, we are not going to have access to. There was a lot of damage done to the floor from people going in and out. So we'll cordon that off. Excuse me. There'll be parking in that parking lot as you drive up through, when the middle school's in front of you to the right. So some of the teachers won't lose their spaces, but some will.
Just have them cancel school.
The buses will take the same route back around out by the field instead of out in front of the high school as they did the last time we voted there.
Not in your space.
Since we're not using the back door of the gym, we'll be able to run our ropes directly to the doors that access the lobby area. So our ingress and egress will be much more defined. Chuck Mitchell has some ideas of how he'd like to set up the voting place. I know that's the selectmen's preview, but he's the one that actually operates it, to increase the flow so people won't be delayed.
Did he feel they were delayed last time? I was there, it didn't seem like it.
At the last presidential election, we had a few delays in our setup. Our setup inside is the same setup we have regardless of where we set up. So he has some changes.
Hey, anything that works, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to be good. He measured off the 200 feet for campaigning.
Yay.
He knows what that is. We will need some help from the PD, obviously.
For traffic control.
Traffic control, because there are a few changes, keeping people from the back door. So it sounded like we would need 3.
He suggested 3, but we could probably get by with 2.
Yeah, last time we had, I think, 2 outside, maybe, but a lot of people.
So if we could have at least 3 officers there during the day, during the elections, and maybe utilize some explorers after school gets out, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, and they came over before.
Yeah, that would be marvelous, especially with the traffic control. This is going to be a big election.
When's it busiest? On the way home from work type time?
There's 3 busy times.
7 or
Morning, as you can imagine, noon, and then after 3.
Before work, during lunch, and after work.
Probably
3 o'clock.
3 on is probably the busiest.
Teachers
Yeah.
and coming in, that's going to be a
Yep.
big one.
They will allow us to set up on Monday.
Yes.
He'll let us know the exact time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it may be earlier,
And it sounds like we're going to have the whole gym,
yes.
but I don't know if he's going to paper the whole gym. Are they going to paper?
No, but like I said, we can cordon it off so that no one accesses the back part of the gym. I mean, the idea really is to get people in to vote and out into the lobby, and if people want to visit in the lobby, that's fabulous.
That's easy enough just by running the rope accordingly in the back.
Now, I'm wondering if one of the, kids at the school, somebody wants to have food out there to sell, to raise money for, I don't know,
Oh, in the lobby?
whatever, in the lobby. And that would also help direct people out of there and into.
That chatter, yeah.
Yeah, because we could put a sign at the door that says no food or beverages. So if they want something, they'll have to come back out and buy them.
Okay. But the plan is, so to have people, because there's 2 sets of double doors there.
One of them will be the ingress, and one of them will be the egress. Usually the one on the right is the ingress, because they go in and immediately take a right
Stay to the right.
to go to the supervisors.
And there's a rope that
up to
goes
the ballot
between
clerks, and then to vote, and then they'll come around and go through the checkout process and go out.
By the brownies.
By the brownies.
We won't have a table for annual reports, obviously.
Because it's
Right.
not an annual report type of thing this time.
It's not town meeting.
One of the things they have is a very strict peanut-free nut.
Yes.
Yes and no.
In that area, it's,
Not that strict.
yeah.
If you know the students in the room, then you take extra care and other,
How about the kitchen? Does John keep that nut-free?
Because when
I'm
we do
sure.
our...
Let's not
our
start with John
functions,
and being a nut.
They,
Well, I didn't know
Very
if there was a booster, some kind of booster club maybe for the football or,
that's a good thought.
There you
one of
go.
the school agencies, and it's nice to have, even if they have to purchase it, something there for voters. Since we don't have our own space and can't bring pie.
I'll bring it
And
back.
then Chuck sent
Kevin.
this to us today. He
Okay.
went to a moderator's workshop. Did everybody get that? I haven't
Yep.
read it yet.
No,
I saw it.
I don't think I did.
I saw it.
Interpretation and application of the Gun-Free School Zones Act of
I asked a
1990.
question.
Oh, guns on
If you
school
look at
property,
I,
yes.
It looks like if I have a concealed carry, I've been authorized through the
I did see
state
that.
and the state's agent that I'm okay.
But federal law says that you can't carry it within a school zone? That was my understanding of reading it. Federal law states.
Unless you have, certain criteria are met.
We have to be licensed by the state to do so.
To carry it within the zone?
Permit, a license?
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the policeman or other?
Others,
Others.
anyone. The police are exempt from this.
Well, it hasn't been an issue yet. Could be, but,
This is Tilton, New Hampshire, folks.
you know,
Well, I'm
Live free or
glad
die.
I got a
they're paying
gun for
attention to
Christmas.
these.
I don't care, but you know, this is Tilton, New Hampshire.
caliber or
A
what?
That
presidential
was Eric.
election doesn't deserve to have a concealed weapon, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but
Oh, you want-
concealed or
Said it.
not, yeah. I'll sling mine over there.
You want open carry?
Big knocks on it.
Doesn't belong in there, let's go.
Okay. Gail and I have been working on getting information on having a town map printed. Did you want to talk about that now, or wait for another meeting?
the time being,
Oh, I just looked at the clock, it's 7:30 already, I've got a couple other things.
Yeah, I just wrote back and said, and we're doing this way.
Okay, can we
I
wait
still have one of
again?
the older versions.
We'll wait again.
Did somebody ask for it?
People come in all the time and ask.
Okay.
And so I went to Cindy, I said, Cindy, you know, do you have the information, because I know you used to have these? And she said, no, they're all done. And so I put out a request to the, on the listserv and to other communities, and I got some responses back saying, oh, these people are still doing it.
Somewhere I have the old one.
So do I got it.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
But we can't have it reproduced.
The old one?
There's the old one.
Yeah. What would
We
need to be
cannot have-
updated, because it's got names of people.
But we
and-
can't have it reproduced,
We don't have the copyright.
right?
The company that reproduced that is out of...
It's out of business.
So are they gonna call us if they're out of business? Just saying.
somebody give me the,
Well, there's a point, if they're out of business.
We didn't pay
You know,
for it?
The maps, you have to pay for the advertising. The price is ridiculous, and the only people that can afford it are the bigger businesses usually, or, you know, the little guys can't, and it draws them away from them. It's just a marketing ploy. If we
what it
get a
It is
map,
to make money for
put
other
on an
people.
11 by 17 piece of paper and copy a map, print a Google map.
Okay.
I just hate to hit
yeah,
people
this
up
is
for it.
like really incomplete as to what's where.
Well, that's,
Then you list the outlet mall, for God's
15.
sake.
It lists whoever pays
here.
100 or 200 bucks.
I'd be interested in seeing a little more information on it.
So we have a
This is
non,
very nice, it's got a whole booklet thing that goes with it.
I would love it like that.
The cost of the ad.
I mean, the cost of the ads provide the revenue to
Right,
end up
but
having...
let's see what
If you're
the
a small
cost is,
business
because
and you
John
can't
makes a
afford
good point.
$200,
Right.
you get left off the map.
budget stuff, that's all set.
Well, it's not really a couple $100, is it?
Oh, yeah.
$199.
$199.
Let's find out what the cost.
Read your emails.
I did. That one.
cost.
Her.
It's $199?
Have you only talked to
For a
one
little square.
company?
Yes.
Oh, so, yeah, there's more out there.
The next Wednesday, we're having our monthly staff meeting, and the topic, which is interesting because we had said this before John brought this to our attention that the law had changed, was going to be our safety meeting. So, so one of the things was trying to clarify, who had jurisdiction. So I contacted OSHA, emailed the OSHA ask, and also the inspector for the Department of Labor, and which confirmed, which I had always known, is that municipalities, because we're extensions of the state, we are exempt from federal OSHA regulations. We have to follow the state's regulations.
Okay.
And they directed me to, what John had said, that, that there have been some changes made. So I highlighted changes in the state law that go, which is the new law, because they print the prior law, and then as of January 1, we should have been following the highlighted section, which is, and then I also sent an inquiry to New Hampshire Municipal Association legal inquiries, saying that if there's a difference between the state law and the federal OSHA law, what do we follow? And in the rules, it says that you follow the stricter one. I have on the last page, says, however, any conflict between this chapter and an existing statute or rule shall be resolved at all times by following the stricter requirement. Whereas I see that as meaning another state rule or regulation, not a federal
No
rule.
smoking within the building.
Even having the cigarettes.
So I'm waiting for,
I give it right here, Department of Labor 1401.02, applicability. It says, the following requirement shall not preclude compliance with RSA 155A, state building code, or other state or federal laws, rules, regulations, or codes. The conflict should arise between these rules and any other applicable law, rule, regulation, or code. These rules shall not supersede the more protective requirements, and that says federal laws. So, I mean, we can beat it to death, but we don't have anything set up, and I think we should go by the OSHA thing and the stricter federal law.
Where are you citing that from?
Department of Labor, New Hampshire.
rule.
And it's under,
Is it in this paper right here?
No, it's in his
This
email.
is-
It's Labor Rule
This was-
140102.
New Hampshire Department of Labor.
Okay.
and that's on the municipalities.
So the difference in opinion is whether we should be following the federal or whether we should be following the state. Is there a huge difference in what the state regulations are and the federal regulations are? I don't think that there's much difference in what they're saying to do, right?
Well, and also, when they're saying what substances are covered by this law, if you look on page 3, they're citing various codes in the federal regulations.
Okay.
That's, but I haven't studied this in depth or compared them.
So,
But the important thing is that employees in New Hampshire have a right to know what substances are in their workplace.
okay.
Number one.
And regardless of whether we follow the state or the federal.
Right. And
Okay.
and we have a procedure set up on how we make, what information we have to collect, where you're going to keep the information, and how you're going to notify the employee.
Okay.
Is what's important.
And that's what's going to happen on Wednesday.
Well, we're going to make, as I'm becoming aware of this, make all of our employees aware of this. Now, we could use training. I could go through our insurance company, or John has offered that he can train. So we can set up specific training. You can come in And 'cause I think each department, we should designate at the highway department or at the police department here at the town hall, who's going to be the one that's responsible for checking these regularly and making sure that they're up to date.
If we said, okay, John, because he's extremely knowledgeable of this, and he trains, would we come into a snag down the road if John was the trainee and there was some type of snag and he's also a selectman?
No, he's
Were
notified.
they not notified properly or trained properly?
You can literally have a PowerPoint presentation that they can read on the computer and do it and sign that they saw it, and it just has to cover.
And that satisfies the
And they should do
requirement.
it every year. Just go on there and do that, and that's probably one of the best things. I talked to Tim, and like Joyce said, it's good to have in each facility a person that's in charge of tracking,
Right.
making sure everything is safe and spotting it, and then HR should oversee them to make sure they're doing it. I talked to Tim about, and I started setting up a spreadsheet that he could use and do it. And basically what it would do is, like the chief would go and enter the description, the manufacturer, and then what they did now is there's signal words. There's danger and warning. Every material has to have either danger or warning. And then after that, there's the GHS symbols. So it would fill it out, and on that spreadsheet, I could help look up the SDSs or anybody else can. And then if any employee could go to any computer terminal, look it up, click on the link, and it would come up. They would have access to read. It would also, you print a copy of every material that's within that facility. So like, the police department could instantly print a fresh copy of all their SDSs, or that which they should have a hard copy, garage, and town hall. So I talked to Tim about that, how it would be structured and put on the server, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm onto it, but he's doing the phone system. So,
And we should have been doing this as of January 1st.
Should we do that at the senior center as well?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
All town buildings.
It Dawson's Concrete, I do it, and every product I order, and we carry gasoline in cans, I have an SDS sheet. I don't even ask if it's toxic or not.
Yeah, whenever-
Every single product that I order like that, I automatically instruct the manufacturer to send me an SDS sheet.
every time you get it, you get the latest
Yep.
update. And
Yep.
and then you go, the other part would be is you just go online to the manufacturer's website, look it up. They all have a PDF of it, download it, and that would be the duty of the person in charge, or Tim, or I can help out, I don't mind.
How long can you keep the SDS sheet before it has to be updated?
When a new one comes out,
No, because it's like with the MSDS, it was, as long as it was under like 5 years, it was good, then you had to ask for a new one.
As long as they don't change the
So
substance.
what do I need to get as far
Every
as,
time you get that material fresh in,
Yeah, that's going to be a nightmare, every shipment. Now you're going to be filling paperwork, and who's going to be shuffling that?
it's the law. But
Well,
it's
yeah,
very
but
easy.
if the SDS
Peter-
sheet hasn't changed, you don't have to keep, you're going to have a
If the
date on it.
product hasn't changed.
if the product hasn't
Right.
changed,
And they're going to have an effective date on their SDS sheet. So there's no, because I don't have time to go through all those regs, there's no 3 or 5 year
so
window that it's effective?
No.
can
to
you
keep
tell
it-
me what I'm looking for at the senior center? So it would be all cleaning, fluids,
any chemical things.
any chemicals at all, right?
Chemical or
That's it.
compound?
That's all I need to know. And then I need to
Plastic
get,
explosive, we'll need one.
do you need them for when Terminex puts down their stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yes.
So they have to supply you
Is it
with a...
toxic?
Yeah, but they're not coming in contact with it, are they?
It's on your premises.
Premises.
Employee or worker can
So you have to
Come in
get,
contact.
Yep.
Bait traps, if they spray along the baseboards, you now have the stuff inside your building.
so
Just on the outside if you're walking past.
we have to get in touch with Terminex to say, where's the SDS sheets for? All right, I'll email Cindy and ask him to ask
Well,
the
we'll have-
Terminex guy.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure that every employee is made aware, and we'll...
Well, Cindy's not an employee. We don't have
Someone from the town has
employees.
to go down there and do it, not
Okay.
her.
Ideally, you should have everybody email you a PDF of it. That's what you want to shoot for, is to get an emailed PDF, not a paper copy. Paper copies just can be, they could be old or whatever. And they should say SDS, not MSDS.
So someone has to go to the senior center and do it. I don't have to do it.
Yeah, they list here what documents to use. There's the U.S. Department of Transportation 1980 Emergency Response Guidebook for Hazardous Waste Materials. There's threshold limit values for chemical substances by the American Conference of Government Industrial Hygienists. There's Title 29 Code of Federal Regulations. There's also the Section 6B5 of the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970.
That's for the training?
This is getting the, what toxic substances we have to go and get.
The town also paid for me to go for profiling of all these materials. Remember when you sent me out to Portsmouth? And I'm all certified for profiling and
Yeah.
doing that. So you don't have to worry about those documents. Those are just, as long as you get the SDS, you're all set.
Now, along with these SDS sheets and these toxic substances, don't you have to have in place a standard for a spill? Let's say my toner cartridge over there, I drop it on the ground and I spill toner dust all over the floor. Don't we have to have in place a process on how that's cleaned up?
It's on the SDS sheet.
Right, but don't we have to notify our employees, okay, if you spill, there's a spill, and then we have to supply whatever is
You should have the
necessary, like
SDS
gloves
sheet.
or whatnot.
And when the person who receives the SDS sheet should look to make sure that we have the capabilities to pick up that, or that we have the capabilities to store it, or that it's not something that's so dangerous that they're buying that we don't have they shouldn't buy it.
Maintain on file at the workplace, this is material safety data sheets, for a period of at least
30
years after discontinuation of the use of each toxic substance.
Yeah.
What is wrong with those people in Concord? They're morons. 30 years for every sheet that you ever got. Where in hell are they gonna, and do they have a sheet police that comes in and checks? I'd like to see your
They
sheets from
actually do
28
if
years
an
ago.
employee complains.
They're called lawyers. But, I mean,
Nice, that's in your house?
This all seems very
Really?
overwhelming, but it's a very, very simple process. You don't have to read too much into it. It's real simple. First thing to do, get a list of the materials and the manufacturer. And Pat, if you can go and look up and get a list of materials and manufacturers,
Yep.
I can take care of the rest from there. It will only take me, I do this nonstop,
Okay.
and I'll put it together, so, or anything else. But I'll have the spreadsheet over to Tim
I
to
know.
approve it, and then it can get out to you, and so you could just type the stuff in.
Okay.
And then I can look up the rest of the stuff and fill it out
Ours
for
is
you.
only going to be cleaning material that's in the maintenance room, I'm sure, that in, like the bait traps, because we do have those, unless somebody wants to
Fertilizer. if
through
they're
the
gonna
refrigerator or
fertilize the
something.
If somebody picks one up and starts chewing on it,
We might have some old milk or something.
yeah. Cottage cheese now.
That rodent bait is pretty tasty.
All right, so
It's
this is
real
a
simple.
priority.
And the main thing is, get a couple SDS sheets for something, and just give them to the employees to start looking at it. And then we can set up a training and just tell them
Going for chocolate.
that's what we're going for. And I could probably do a PowerPoint thing real quick and
You can do a PowerPoint?
set it up. So if they can look at it or,
Whose bag is this?
scan it.
And then we can put it on, we can put it on access.
If they do it, they can sign it. Or somebody can sit in a room.
Oh, look.
Tim is going to be making
Those come to James.
software to do it for people to learn how to use the phones. He doesn't have to go down.
But it's really, really simple to do.
All right,
All right,
great.
so
I'll work with
We got a
them.
plan.
If we got progress, we'll go.
So I got a couple non-publics. The only other thing, Catherine, is the trash ordinance. But this isn't for town meeting, this is just.
This is just, we can do this next week. This is something we can adopt.
Week after, 3
I
weeks.
sent it
if you
out.
like.
Yep.
I think I've got every single change possible. So read it.
How do you pronounce that word, pers?
I was just looking at that putrescible.
Oh, I love that word. Isn't that a fabulous word?
Oh, can I have that
What-
map?
Putrescible.
Is that your map?
Putrescible.
Where putrid came from?
Yes, putrescible.
Is that your map or my map?
This is your map.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we'll do next week.
Yes?
Yeah,
Yep.
oh, yeah, 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 oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So that's all I have. I didn't get a chance to look at the to be signed. Can I look at the to be signed? See what's in there?
Next week is Rick Frost, and that's going to be about a 45 minutes, so if the chief says it's 45 minutes, it's at least an hour
What's Risk Frost?
on the school addictions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Peer Substance Coalition.
Peer Substance Coalition.
And they're coming to us, why?
It's going to go over to the school, right?
Yeah, they just want to do a presentation with they help towns tackle.
Stand Up Laconia.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's good. Are we going to, are there other people we want to be here to see this?
I know that one we don't.
Before the board first, then we'll do another one afterwards. We just wanted to do a presentation before the board first, and then
And then if he does another one in town, it will be
yeah, with them.
but we can welcome other people if they want to come, the people that you feel that's going to be on that committee,
I could ask Helen
we can invite in Helen, right?
next week.
Is that to introduce her ahead of time, or?
Yeah. Yep. We could probably work around the time, probably 6, I would say. All right, so, Joyce is done. Catherine, you have something for us? John, you have something for us?
We don't allow people running for office we don't schedule their stuff, they're on their own. Because remember that letter?
Email?
Yeah.
You don't schedule what now?
We don't
don't
take
what?
any, some right,
Right
what's
wing?
his name?
Oh, no, we don't,
No. In the past, we haven't entertained
Anybody.
any of those.
Anybody,
Democratic
any
we don't let
purpose.
them advertise on our movie for free.
Exactly.
Maybe
We
that's
would tell
because-
Hillary or Donald
Oh,
or
it's only
any of them
elected
that
ones
say.
that you're allowed to do it?
Well, if he wants to sponsor maybe a sidewalk.
A crosswalk.
Oh, a senior center.
There you go.
Okay, moving on real
Don't
quick.
forget our seniors.
I would say no.
Next.
Next week, I'm sorry, the 19th, is that next week?
Yeah.
The 19th at noon time at the senior center. There's a a birthday party for a woman that's turning 101 years old.
12 o'clock
I'll see you
noon?
there, John.
Yep. 101. Still coming
That's
to the
not the
senior.
one.
Trudy.
I thought, she's 101? Good God.
Yep. That's really, I think we addressed the other things that I had on, I have a list, but they're for highway, and that'll be next week when Johnny's here.
Today I had a cooking class over at the senior center. We made raised donuts and with glaze and apple fritters. And they turned out real good. We had like 7 people that took the class, and it was a lot of fun. So we're going to have another one. Check out the senior center event flyer thing, or go to the website and come on down, because I think next time we're going to do chili rellenos and tamales, and we're going to have Mexican food and eat lunch. It doesn't cost anything to attend, so come on down.
I think I'm going. When is it, next time you're going?
She hasn't scheduled the exact date, but it's approximately a month from now.
Very nice. Peter, do you have anything for us?
Nope.
You sure?
Not that I can think of.
Sure.
Town hall is closed, Martin Luther King Day.
Yep.
Civil Rights Day?
Yes,
Yes.
we had it right, and then, oh, that's right. Who changed it?
They caved.
Who caved?
Legislature.
And our
Governor.
senior senator? She signed it.
Yep, they caved.
We were right, and they caved.
Whatever.
I would like to mention ahead of time, in case people are watching the video, the budget public hearing is January 27th at 7 PM. That's the first public hearing, budget public hearing.
Can we have the Public Works Department put out signs again for us, like they did last year? I think they should go out a week in advance. It's very important. The more people we can get to go.
Absolutely.
That was the other thing, DOT wanted us to move our monuments.
Yeah, get the monuments out of the middle of the
no problem.
street.
Where do
know,
they
the
want
ones
us
that
to
are-
move them to?
We just laughed. We all laughed.
Historical.
So I would have said, you want them 50 feet that way or 50 feet that way?
We just said they're registered in the historical thing. And
Somebody
and
asked me
backed off.
when the time is that you sign up for offices. when
June
you put the board out
20th.
there.
20th.
To 29th.
January?
January 20th to 29th.
January 20th.
Unless you're running against Catherine, and it's June 20th to 29th.
It's January 20th.
January, yeah, through 29th. Get your name down here, you have to fill out a form,
Yep.
No.
and your name gets put on the board.
And you don't have to
you
pay
can-
anymore.
And you
Yeah,
can be,
this have to be.
It used to be $1.
We're looking for a moderator this year.
No, Chuck is running.
This year?
Easy.
Yes! Chuck Mitchell is not stepping down. Stepped right up to the plate. He
Good.
will be-
All right.
Yep, he is.
Very good at it. He's
Thank you,
very
Chuck.
knowledgeable.
I don't know if his term is up this year or not.
All right. That's a
And
good
he
one.
hasn't put
all I
his name
have.
on the board yet.
Huh?
Well, I don't know if his
Still a
term
good
is up.
thing. All right. If there's no more business to come before us in a public meeting, you finish eating your chocolate?
You want one for the road?
I would like to make a motion to enter into non-public as per RSA 91A:3, personnel and the sale and acquisition lease of property.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
And we're red. Red is on.
Can't rush into it. You're absolutely right.
8:57. I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel permanently and as they pertain to potential acquisition of land and/or buildings until such time as the matter is resolved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 I'd like a motion to, make a motion to accept the new building permit fee schedule presented by the code enforcement officer to us last week.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
There you go.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
That was a quick one.
Told you it was correct.